Chapter 17:17. Nope. Little Pig looked at the silver fox in Luo Qingtong's arms, who had calmed down after seeing that she was fine, and curled his lips. This man is so strong. A heart of myriad trees of this level is useless to him. The heavenly demon fox's blood essence core was only enough to extend his life for 3 years. What else could he say? The heavenly demon fox was a 9-life demon fox. A single drop of its blood was enough to extend an ordinary person's lifespan to 100 years old. Cultivators wanted to obtain its blood essence to refine life-prolonging pills. In the end, this man killed a heavenly demon fox and forced it to use the demon fox blood curse to deal with him. In the end, all the blood essence and core he obtained was only enough to extend his life for 3 years. Little Pig didn't want to say anything more. If this heart of myriad trees was given to him, it wouldn't even be enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Yi Qianxian also softly grunted. He raised his paw and patted Luo Qingtong's hand, indicating that he didn't need it and that she should use it herself. He naturally had Bei Qing and Feng Yu to help him keep an eye on the situation outside the realm. If there was something suitable for him to extend his life, they would immediately inform him. Luo Qingtong didn't need to worry about him. As for repairing his meridians, this heart of myriad trees was useless to him. Things like the 10,000-year divine wood might be useful to him. However, it was too difficult to find, and its effects were too short for him. There was no need for him to use it. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded, understanding his meaning. Since this man couldn't use it, she would use it herself. Luo Qingtong raised her hand and put the heart of myriad trees into her mouth. This heart of myriad trees contained rich life energy. Not only could it help Luo Qingtong increase her strength, it was also a holy healing medicine. In just an instant, the bloody wounds on Luo Qingtong's body that were caused by the giant tree's branches all disappeared. The girl's skin was as lustrous as jade. In this lush forest, it seemed to be emitting a white light. Little Pig excitedly looked at Luo Qingtong, who was enveloped in a layer of green light. He was looking forward to seeing Luo Qingtong's strength increase again. If this continued, the time would not be far away. Ha ha ha. Just as it was feeling happy, it suddenly felt that something was wrong. Strange, as if something was staring at it. As it thought of this, it raised its head and met Yi Qianxian's cold and sinister eyes. Those eyes were filled with incomparable fury. Hey hey hey. Wait. Little Pig looked at the fury in Yi Qianxian's eyes in horror. Then, he looked at Luo Qingtong's tattered clothes, which were torn by the branches. Suddenly, countless crows flew across his heart. Wait. That's not it. I wasn't peeking at her. I swear in the name of the sovereign of all beasts. Ah. Little Pig's cry was unusually miserable. While Luo Qingtong was eating the heart of myriad trees, Martial Uncle Zhang had also rushed out of the encirclement of the spirit-opening demon trees. He was in a sorry state from head to toe, even more sorry than when he was in the sea. He didn't expect there to be so many spirit-opening demon trees on this island. It was really impossible to defend against the attacks on his way here. Fortunately, he had already rushed out of the area where the spirit-opening demon trees were located. Luo Qingtong, that bitch, prepare to die. Chapter 17:18. Bitch. He roared and rushed over. However, just as he rushed into the forest valley, in an instant, all the wood spirits in the surroundings were awakened. The strength of these wood spirits was much stronger than those spirit-opening demon trees outside. At this moment, because this martial Uncle Zhang had barged into the myriad spirit-nurturing array, all the wood spirits in the surroundings surrounded him. One had to know that this martial Uncle Zhang did not have the ability to see through the array like Luo Qingtong. Naturally, he also did not know how to avoid being surrounded by these wood spirits. As for Luo Qingtong, because she was near the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood and at the same time, she was in the safe zone of the array, she was not affected at all. Those wood spirits did not pay attention to her at all and were wholeheartedly focused on killing that martial Uncle Zhang. What? That martial Uncle Zhang saw Luo Qingtong here and rushed over in a fit of anger. He did not know that there was an array here. Who would have thought that Luo Qingtong was sitting here and was fine, but he was surrounded and killed the moment he came in. That martial Uncle Zhang was indescribably flustered and exasperated. At this moment, Luo Qingtong was trying her best to absorb and comprehend the power of the heart of myriad trees in her body. She could feel that martial Uncle Zhang had already barged in. However, with this myriad spirit-nurturing array blocking, Luo Qingtong did not have to worry about him rushing in front of her for the time being. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The sound of waves washing away sand sounded in her body. Like rolling thunder, the power of the heart of myriad trees in her body was constantly spreading and filling. Luo Qingtong's body was filled with this kind of power. This was a combination of the essence of life, the beauty of creation, the brilliance of the sun and the moon. In an instant, this pure and rich power soaked into every part of Luo Qingtong's body. Blood, muscles, bones, meridians, every inch of Luo Qingtong's body was filled with the essence of the heart of myriad trees. At the same time, in her mind, a surge of life essence rushed into her body, and she constantly comprehended the mysteries of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth around her. The power of the heart of myriad trees allowed her to communicate with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth without any hindrance. Luo Qingtong's soul was incomparably compatible with this piece of earth, heaven, and earth, as well as the laws of heaven and earth's spiritual energy. She blended into the spirit qi and felt its evolution between heaven and earth. All things in the world, Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, and three begets all things. All living things had transformed into spirits. Boom! The power within Luo Qingtong's body, along with her soul power, began to boil in an instant. Bang! Luo Qingtong's body suddenly emitted an explosive sound. Her aura surged from the inside out, and she instantly broke through to the saint realm. What? Martial Uncle Zhang, who was entangled with the wood spirit, suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. This woman, she had broken through? In this secular world where spiritual qi was scarce, it was extremely difficult to break through to the saint realm. She actually made a breakthrough? Martial Uncle Zhang's eyes widened into round circles. In the next second, he couldn't care about anything else. With a furious roar, he forcefully endured the attacks of the wood spirit and charged toward Luo Qingtong. Bitch! Die! He absolutely couldn't let her live. Otherwise, there would be no end of trouble. This time, it wasn't because he was afraid of Yi Qianxian, but because of the talent and strength that Luo Qingtong had displayed. Chapter 1719. Boom! Uncle Master Zhang's attack was immensely powerful. He ignored the attacks of the wood spirits and directly sent a palm strike towards Luo Qingtong. Bang! The aura from that palm strike was so powerful that it could topple mountains and overturn seas. That vast and boundless power directly smashed the few wood spirits that rushed out in front of him into pieces. At the same time, Uncle Master Zhang was also hit by the attacks of the other wood spirits. He spat out a mouthful of blood, but looked at where Luo Qingtong was with a big smile on his face. B***tch, you're dead. He looked coldly at the attack heading towards Luo Qingtong and was extremely pleased with himself. Once this woman was dead, he would take all the treasures on her body and take away all the heart of wood spirits. When that time came, he would return to the Breeze Pavilion and be incomparably glorious. This woman would rest eternally on this island. Uncle Master Zhang laughed loudly at the thought of this. However, at this moment, boom! At this moment, an attack flew over from the front and blasted the palm wind he blasted out. Bang! The two attacks collided in midair. In an instant, the force that shot out blasted the surrounding wood spirits and sent them flying backwards. Old dog, are you done laughing? Luo Qingtong's figure appeared behind the energy storm caused by the collision of the two attacks. She held the long sword in her hand horizontally, and her aura was boundless. She was already in the saint realm. Once one comprehended the power of the heart of wood, they could directly enter the saint realm. Luo Qingtong's strength had already broken through to the Saint Realm the moment Uncle Master Zhang attacked. In fact, even if she did not break through to the Saint Realm, just the power of Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian alone was enough to deal with Uncle Master Zhang. However, Luo Qingtong did not want to waste the medicinal effect of the Heart of Wood. At the same time, she did not want to give Uncle Master Zhang any chance to escape. Therefore, when Uncle Master Zhang rushed over to attack, she did not move. Instead, she chose to continue breaking through. Now, he'd finally attained the Saint Realm. Surnamed Zhang, did you have fun chasing me just now? Luo Qingtong licked her lips. The corners of his lips curled up in a devilish smile. Don't worry, I'll make you feel even better later. When Luo Qingtong said this, Yi Qianxian suddenly frowned. He looked at Luo Qingtong. What did this woman say to make others feel better? Luo Qingtong didn't notice his gaze. At this moment, she was staring coldly in the direction of Senior Uncle Zhang. Then, she raised her hand abruptly. Spirit nurturing array of all creation, activate. Boom boom boom. Following Luo Qingtong's movement, the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood in the center of the array shook violently. In an instant, the wood spirits in the array were controlled by the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. They spread out and surrounded Uncle Master Zhang in an instant. Luo Qingtong did not want to use these wood spirits to kill Uncle Master Zhang. She wanted to use them to stop him from escaping. It was time to settle the score with him for chasing her all the way here. You guys stay here. Take care of Qianren. Luo Qingtong placed Little Pig and Yi Qianxian in the center of the heart of the 1,000-year soul guiding wood. She ordered it to control a group of wood spirits to guard them. Then, with a flash of his body, he charged towards Senior Uncle Zhang. Chapter 1720. How arrogant. Don't think that I can't do anything to you just because you've broken through to the Saint Realm. Martial Uncle Zhang was indeed shocked when Luo Qingtong broke his attack. However, he saw that Luo Qingtong's power was only at the Saint Realm. Moreover, the majestic and vast aura that he felt from her body that didn't belong to her at all had disappeared. He immediately sneered. He didn't know that Luo Qingtong's power had all come from Yi Qianxian. He thought that Luo Qingtong had used too much power from that long sword and was restricted. After all, no matter how heaven-defying a long sword was, Luo Qingtong couldn't fully display its strength with her current strength. Even if she could use it, there must be a limit to the number of times she could use it. She probably thought that he didn't know. Martial Uncle Zhang thought so and immediately attacked Luo Qingtong with a sneer. He wanted to see what Luo Qingtong could do to him without the support of that mysterious power. It was simply a fantasy for a Saint Realm expert to fight a Saint Realm expert. However, just as he thought so, he suddenly saw Luo Qingtong smile at him. That smile was indescribably enchanting and evil. In the next second, Luo Qingtong raised the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Heaven-seizing style. The life and death yin-yang sword in Luo Qingtong's hand instantly turned into the form of a death blade. The pitch-black longsword in Luo Qingtong's hand was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. In an instant, it drew an extremely powerful and biting cold light and sent Martial Uncle Zhang flying. What? The moment Junior Uncle Zhang was sent flying, he was completely dumbfounded. He could feel the terrifying light and aura emitted by the longsword in Luo Qingtong's hand. What was going on? He was shocked. The power of the other party's attack clearly didn't feel as vast and terrifying as before. How could she still release such a terrifying attack? This sword strike was enough to kill a Saint Realm expert. However, Luo Qingtong was clearly using her own power. What was going on? He didn't know that when the life and death yin-yang sword in Luo Qingtong's hand transformed, the life blade had already absorbed the abundant spiritual energy in the spirit breeding array and then transformed it into the power of the death blade. The power that Luo Qingtong could unleash in this myriad spirit nurturing array was several times that of outside. Not to mention that she was using Yi Qianxian's unique move. When Luo Qingtong was still in the Saint Realm, with the power of the Saint King's soul in the heart of the 1,000-year soul tree, she could use heaven-seizing style to kill. Not to mention that she was now. This strike was enough to send Martial Uncle Zhang, a saint general, flying. The reason why he didn't use annihilation was because he didn't want his opponent to die so quickly. Was it necessary to kill her after chasing her all the way here? Today, she would let him know what it meant to doubt life. Heaven-seizing style. The life and death yin-yang sword in Luo Qingtong's hand once again changed into the form of the life and death blade. Once again, it broke through the air and blasted towards Martial Uncle Zhang. Bang! Martial Uncle Zhang's figure was sent flying again. The defensive aura of a Saint Realm expert enveloping his body was shattered by Luo Qingtong's sword attack. The light of the death blade ruthlessly cut a bloody wound on his body. Chapter 1721. The death blade's corrosive effect of weakening the opponent's strength worked. Sensing the changes in his body, Martial Uncle Zhang's heart tightened fiercely. The strength displayed by Luo Qingtong was enough to shock him. The girl's attack was actually able to weaken his strength. If this continued, he would definitely die at her hands. Thinking of this, Martial Uncle Zhang's expression turned extremely ugly. He'd originally thought that Luo Qingtong was already his, and he'd been extremely complacent and belittling Luo Qingtong just now. He felt that her strength at the Saint Realm couldn't be compared with his at all. Only now did he realize how arrogant and ignorant he was. No, he had to leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would really die here. Thinking of this, Martial Uncle Zhang did not dare to delay and hurriedly wanted to escape. However, he was full of confidence just now and did not take Luo Qingtong seriously. Now that he wanted to leave, it was already too late. The myriad spirit nurturing array was activated and the wood spirits had surrounded him. Under the control of the thousand-year soul guiding wood, the wood spirits continued to encircle him, blocking his path of escape. At the same time, Luo Qingtong raised the life and death sword in her hand again. Boom! Beam after beam of sword light constantly blasted out from the life and death sword in her hand. The beams of light slammed into Martial Uncle Zhang, causing him to vomit blood and fly backward. At the same time, they also left bloody wounds on his body so deep that his bones could be seen. As Luo Qingtong left more and more wounds on his body, the power of the death blade also eroded and weakened Martial Uncle Zhang's strength more and more. This Martial Uncle Zhang had also tried to struggle. He desperately took pills to counteract the weakening effect of Luo Qingtong's death blade and heal the wounds on his body. However, the wounds and corrosion caused by the death blade could only be healed by the life force on the life blade. No matter how many pills he took, it was completely useless to him. As for Luo Qingtong, as long as she could break through the opponent's external defense and leave a wound on his body, then, she could use the power of the death blade to completely grind the opponent to death. Bang! Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. After weakening the strength of Masters Junior Zhang to a certain extent, she put away the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Then, with a flash, she appeared in front of Masters Junior Zhang. Crack! Luo Qingtong raised her hand and grabbed Martial Uncle Zhang's arm. After neutralizing the force of his attack, she pressed her palm down. In the blink of an eye, Martial Uncle Zhang's arm was bent at an extremely strange and terrifying angle. Eerie white bones mixed with flesh and blood protruded out. Martial Uncle Zhang's screams shook the heavens, but Luo Qingtong's eyes didn't change in the slightest. She had lived 2 lives. What she hated the most was being hunted down and coveted. But this Martial Uncle Zhang had both. Did they want her life and her treasures? Fine. As long as he had the life to take it. She offered it with both hands. Bang! After breaking all the bones of Martial Uncle Zhang's limbs, Luo Qingtong raised her foot and kicked Martial Uncle Zhang away with a boom. The blood-red light in her eyes surged uncontrollably. It was an extremely gorgeous and bloodthirsty light. Chapter 1722. She walked in front of Martial Uncle Zhang, and the blood in her eyes flickered intensely. Then, she stepped on him with an indifferent expression. Martial Uncle Zhang fell to the ground, and his 4 limbs were broken. He wriggled on the ground and screamed miserably. Luo Qingtong's foot landed on his back. In an instant, with a crack, his spine was broken. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She moved her foot down and up, crushing all the bones in Martial Uncle Zhang's body. Martial Uncle Zhang's screams became even more mournful. Oh no! Seeing Luo Qingtong's abnormal state, Little Pig immediately realized that Luo Qingtong had lost control again. This Martial Uncle Zhang was so powerful. If Luo Qingtong hadn't thought of Bright Moon Island and obtained an opportunity there, who knew how long she would have been chased by him? Moreover, she might have aggravated Yi Qianqian's injuries. Under such circumstances, Luo Qingtong's anger towards Uncle Master Zhang was not small. Now that she had released it, she couldn't control herself. Hey! Quick, bad news! Master, she's out of control. Quickly go and stop her. Seeing that Luo Qingtong's aura was becoming more and more bloodthirsty and cold, and her attacks were becoming more and more ruthless, Little Pig hurriedly raised his little hoof and poked Yi Qianren, who was beside him. There was no other way. At this moment, only this man could bring Luo Qingtong back to her senses. He had to take advantage of the fact that Luo Qingtong hadn't completely lost control and quickly stop her. Otherwise, it would be too late. Yi Qianxian had also realized that Luo Qingtong's aura was abnormal. He didn't need Little Pig to say anything. Little Pig had already jumped out and ran toward Luo Qingtong. Kill! Luo Qingtong had already dealt with Martial Uncle Zhang. The blood in her eyes became more and more intense. At this moment, Yi Qianxian jumped in front of her. Aoo! He opened his mouth and wanted to call her name, but what came out was the sound of a little fox. In an instant, Yi Qianming's face turned black. At this moment, Luo Qingtong also felt that there was another intruder around her. She subconsciously swung the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Almost instantly, she slashed at Yi Qianxian, who was charging toward her. Oh my God! When Little Pig saw this scene, he immediately raised his voice and barked. Master! He's Yi Qianxian's face. Yi Qianxian. It had forgotten that Yi Qianren was in her silver fox form, so she couldn't speak. Yi. Yi? When Little Pig's words entered her ears, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. Her hand that was about to attack abruptly stopped. At this moment, Yi Qianxian threw himself at her. Unable to speak, he raised his head and kissed the girl. At the same time, the power in his body poured into Luo Qingtong's body. Luo Qingtong, wake up! Qian. When Yi Qianxian's power entered her body, Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. In the next second, the blood in her eyes extinguished. She hugged the cute little fox in her arms tightly. At the same time, the attack that she had slashed towards Yi Qianren was completely retracted the moment it reached her opponent. Did I lose control? Luo Qingtong's voice was slightly hoarse. Although it was a question, her tone was very certain. Chapter 1723. That's right. Little Pig dashed over at this moment, his face filled with lingering fear. You almost went on a killing spree just now. No one knew better than Little Pig how frightening Luo Qingtong was when she lost control. Most importantly, it wasn't time for her to appear in front of others yet. Fortunately, this woman lost control twice and had Yi Qianren by her side, suppressing her. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Okay. Even if Little Pig didn't say it, Luo Qingtong knew what would happen if she lost control. Fortunately, Yi Qianxian woke her up. Luo Qingtong lowered her head and kissed the little fox in her arms. Then, she raised her head and looked around. Martial Uncle Zhang was completely dead. His body was lying not far from Luo Qingtong, and it didn't even look human anymore. Luo Qingtong glanced at him and walked past him. She looked at the fallen wood spirits on the ground. Many wood spirits had their bodies smashed in the battle with Martial Uncle Zhang, revealing the wood spirit hearts inside. The wood spirit hearts floated in the air, emitting a rich aura of vitality. One of these wood spirit hearts was enough to create a future Saint Realm expert. Of course, that person's strength had to be above the martial ancestor realm. Otherwise, if their strength was too low, they wouldn't be able to advance so much and directly reach the Saint Realm even if they consumed the wood spirit hearts. But even so, it was already good enough. After all, with the wood spirit hearts, the person who consumed them wouldn't have to worry about the bottleneck of reaching the Saint Realm. As long as they had enough strength, they would definitely be able to reach the Saint Realm in the future. It was only a matter of time. It could be said that if Luo Qingtong had all these wood spirit hearts in her hands, she would have an extremely powerful Saint Realm army under her command in the future. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Very good. With these wood spirit hearts, Suyu, Tianxia, and the others wouldn't have to worry about their strength. Let's go. Let's take all these wood spirit hearts. Luo Qingtong said as she leaped up. Bang bang bang. She swung the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand. Because these wood spirits were suppressed by the heart of the 1,000-year-old soul-guiding tree, they were immediately bound and unable to move within the array. They were also unable to resist Luo Qingtong's attacks. In an instant, one by one, the wood spirits fell under Luo Qingtong's sword. Behind her, Little Pig had a trash ring on each of its hooves. It was constantly collecting the wood spirit hearts that were revealed from the wood spirits that Luo Qingtong had slashed apart. It was extremely busy. Its eyes glowed, and its 4 little hooves waved continuously. As it collected, it cried out, "Aya, Aya. I'm rich." Luo Qingtong's lips twitched when she saw his money grubber's smug look. Sometimes, she would wonder if this pig was really an ancient mythical beast. It didn't have the slightest bit of a divine beast's aloofness and dignity. If it wasn't for the fact that it had once revealed its true form and was quite reliable at critical moments, Luo Qingtong wouldn't be willing to believe that it was an ancient mythical beast. While Luo Qingtong and the others were collecting the wood spirit hearts from the myriad spirit breeding array, Bei Qing, Fengyu, and the others had already found this bright moon island by following the weak connection between them and Yi Qianxian. In fact, they had thought of the existence of this bright moon island. If Luo Qingtong was really in danger, she would probably rush here. Therefore, they decided to try their luck here. Otherwise, they really wouldn't know how to find Luo Qingtong and the others in this vast sea. Chapter 1724. Evil Doctor. The group rushed to the bright moon island. The mutant creatures in the sea and the spirit-opening demon wood on the island were no obstacles to them at all. They went straight in and appeared directly in front of Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian. "Your subordinates have arrived late. Please forgive us, Master and the Evil Doctor." They broke into the array of all living things. At this moment, all the wood spirits in the array had been killed by Luo Qingtong. The wood spirit hearts were all taken by Little Pig. The array of all living things was broken by itself. Bei Qing and Fengyu did not encounter any attacks. The group of people knelt down in front of Luo Qingtong. Their eyes swept across the surroundings and they were shocked. Especially when he saw Martial Uncle Zhang's corpse, he was indescribably shocked. A saint general was actually killed by the evil physician just like that? Their faces were shocked, but Luo Qingtong's heart was calm. She hummed softly and did not say anything. In the vast sea, it was good enough that Bei Qing and Fengyu could find them. After all, she and Yi Qianming did not know where they were sent. How could they find them? They were not to blame for this. Luo Qingtong walked to the center of the array of all living things. There, the bud of the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood was waving at Luo Qingtong intimately. When Luo Qingtong stretched out her hand, it rubbed against Luo Qingtong's palm enthusiastically. It looked very cute. Yes, the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood's heart had broken through the soil and sprouted under the stimulation of the array of all living things. At this moment, the 2 tender green leaves looked especially fresh and green. Luo Qingtong looked at the small bud and raised her hand to dig it up. This myriad spirit-nurturing array had been broken, and the heart of the 1,000-year-old soul-guiding tree was useless here. Luo Qingtong naturally wanted to take it away. It could still be of use in the future. When Luo Qingtong dug up the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood sprout, Little Pig suddenly exclaimed in surprise. That's not right. Why doesn't it look like the Millennium's soul-guiding wood? Little Pig muttered as he looked at the tiny sprout. Inexplicably, this sprout gave it a very strange feeling. This aura didn't seem like the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood, but more like the aura of the ancient heavenly spirit wood. Little Pig's eyes widened as he stared at the little sprout. His heart was filled with curiosity. That's impossible. Luo Qingtong had clearly taken the Millennium soul-guiding wood before. Why did its aura change after it sprouted? After all, the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood and the ancient heavenly spirit wood weren't on the same level. Although they were both related to the power of the soul, the ancient heavenly spirit wood was a divine wood. Even if the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood grew to 100,000 years or even 1,000,000 years old, it was still an ordinary wood. At best, it could reach the level of a spirit wood. It couldn't go any higher. But now, it had completely transformed. What's going on? This can't be the effect of this myriad spirit-nurturing array. Little Pig's heart was filled with disbelief. However, Luo Qingtong didn't pay much attention to it. This little sprout was indeed born from the 1,000-year soul-guiding wood's heart. It would be a good thing if it had transformed. She put it away and prepared to study it in the future. How's the situation on Sea Emperor Island? She looked at Feng Yu and the others. Has everyone been eliminated? Are Little Lucky and the others okay? Chapter 1725. Upon hearing this, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others' expressions changed slightly. When they discovered that Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian's aura had disappeared, they immediately chased after them. They had no idea what had happened on Sea Emperor Island. Evil Doctor, the group looked at each other. As for Luo Qingtong, she seemed to have realized something from their conversation, and her eyes narrowed. Didn't you come to find me and Qian Ren after settling the matter on Sea Emperor Island? Luo Qingtong thought that Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others only found out that something had happened to her and Yi Qianxian after discovering that something had happened on Sea Emperor Island. Was that not the case? No. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others answered honestly. After you and Master's aura disappeared, we sensed that something was wrong, and immediately chased after you. Before they could finish speaking, Luo Qingtong's figure had already rushed out. She had to rush back to Sea Emperor Island immediately. Swoosh! When Luo Qingtong's figure rushed out of Bright Moon Island, the third princess of the Sea Emperor looked in the direction of the forbidden area in front of her with a sullen expression. Damn it! They actually managed to escape. She had led the people of the Breeze Pavilion and thought that they could catch the Sea Emperor and the others in one fell swoop. In fact, the elders had all died in their hands. Only a few people, the Sea Emperor, Huang Fuxi, and the others were left. Under such circumstances, the Sea Emperor and the others were like turtles in a jar. Who would have thought that the Sea Emperor would actually use all of his strength and life force as a sacrifice, borrowing the energy fluctuations of the great clan elder and the others who had successfully opened the forbidden area to forcefully break open the protection of the forbidden area. At this moment, the group of people was hiding in the forbidden area. They couldn't do anything to them at all. The third princess of the Sea Emperor's expression was ugly. But soon, she sneered again. I'll let you hide here and see how long the Sea Emperor's life force and strength can hold on. When he dies, you will still be expelled from the forbidden area. Such a one-sided sacrifice to forcefully open the forbidden area was simply not a long-term solution. She was waiting to see when Huang Fuxi and the others would be thrown out of the forbidden grounds to die. The third princess sneered as she turned around and left. Huang Fuxi and the others were dead for sure. However, before that, she had to take control of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Once she became the Sea Empress of the entire Sea Emperor Dragon Court and took control of all the defensive spell formations on the Sea Emperor Island, Huang Fuxi and the others would have no chance of turning the tables. As long as they came out of the Forbidden Land, the third princess of the Sea God Emperor would be able to control the entire Sea God Island's defenses and kill them without the need for the Breeze Pavilion's people to do anything. As long as they were on Ocean Emperor Island, it would be impossible for them to escape death. In fact, if it weren't for the fact that the Sea Emperor and the others had gathered in the Forbidden Area for the sake of Luo Qingtong, the third princess of the Sea Emperor wouldn't have been able to find a good opportunity to attack them. After all, as long as the Ocean Emperor was given enough time, he would be able to control the defenses of the entire Ocean Emperor Island to attack. At that time, it was inevitable that they would escape. But now, they had no chance at all. The third princess of the Sea Emperor left a few people to guard the area and then went out to suppress the people of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Everyone who obeyed her would live, and those who disobeyed her would die. Under the suppression of the Breeze Pavilion's people, the people of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court couldn't resist at all and could only submit. Chapter 1726. At night, a figure suddenly appeared in the sky above Sea Emperor Island. Demonic Doctor. When that figure appeared, many other figures also tore through the sky and arrived. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others appeared beside Luo Qingtong with guilty expressions. They had just heard about what happened on Sea Emperor Island. The third princess of the Sea Emperor had regained her position with the help of the Breeze Pavilion. However, the Sea Emperor, Sea Empress, Huangfu Shi, and the others were nowhere to be found. No one knew if they had been killed. Everyone felt very guilty. If only they had left a group of people on Sea Emperor Island. That way, nothing would have happened to the Sea Emperor and the others. However, they had been too anxious about their master's safety and had not thought of this. If something had happened to the Sea Emperor, Sea Empress, and Huangfu Shi, the demonic doctor would feel very bad. They looked at Luo Qingtong and saw that her expression was very cold. Ow! Yi Qianxian let out a soft cry. He hated the way he looked like a little fox. If it wasn't necessary, he definitely wouldn't open his mouth. But now, he spoke to make Luo Qingtong happy. The Sea Emperor and the others might not be in danger. He raised his paw and patted the back of Luo Qingtong's hand to comfort her. Yes, I know. Luo Qingtong lowered her head and rubbed against him. She felt Yi Qianxian's comfort and the coldness in her heart dissipated. Demonic Doctor, we have already found out that the third princess of the Sea Emperor will hold the coronation ceremony in front of the Sea Emperor's statue tomorrow morning. Then, she will completely control the entire Sea Emperor's royal court and Sea Emperor Island. Should we immediately attack and kill her and the people of the Breeze Pavilion? Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others were full of murderous intent. They naturally had to make up for the mistakes they had made. The third princess of the Sea Emperor and the people of the Breeze Pavilion could not escape. No need. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She raised her head and looked sharply in the direction of the Sea Emperor's royal court palace. Just let them live a little longer. Let's go to the Sea Emperor's forbidden area. Luo Qingtong could sense that Little Lucky and the others should be fine. Given the temperament of the third princess of the Sea Emperor, if the Sea Emperor and the others really died in her hands, she would definitely hang the corpse up for public display. Firstly, he wanted to vent his anger. Secondly, he wanted to intimidate. Since she had not done so, it meant that Little Lucky and the others were still alive. Moreover, the third princess of the sea was helpless against them for the time being. Luo Qingtong immediately thought of the Sea Emperor's forbidden area. If her guess was correct, Little Lucky and the others should be in the forbidden area. Since that was the case, he would wait for Little Lucky and the others to come out before taking his revenge. At that time, the expressions of the third princess of the Sea Emperor and the others would definitely be very interesting. Go! Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold, and she took the lead to rush in the direction of Sea Emperor's forbidden area. Bei Qing and Feng Yu didn't ask any questions and just followed behind Luo Qingtong. It was up to the evil doctors to decide what to do. They only needed to carry it out. The group rushed in the direction of Sea Emperor's forbidden area. In Sea Emperor's forbidden area, Huangfu Shi looked at the Sea Emperor, who was getting thinner and thinner. His aura was incomparably weak, and he was still getting weaker. His heart was filled with indescribable grief. "Father." He choked with sobs. "Don't do this again. Let's go out together. Even if I die, I want to die with you and Mother." He threw himself into the Sea Emperor's arms and choked with sobs. Chapter 1727. That's right. Even if the Sea Emperor consumed his life force and energy, there was a limit to how long he could last. At that time, once he died, they would be expelled from the Sea Emperor's forbidden land. They would not be able to escape death. They might as well go out now and die together. Otherwise, the Sea Emperor's strength and life force would be wasted. The Sea Empress' eyes were also red. Tears fell like water droplets, but she did not say anything. They had been husband and wife for decades. She knew what the Sea Emperor was persevering for. Cough cough. Silly child. The Sea Emperor raised his hand and patted Huangfu Shi's head. "Father, you have to do this." He looked at Huangfu Shi and asked, "Do you believe that something will happen to Miss Tong?" "No." Huangfu Shi shook his head with red eyes. "That's right." Cough cough. Father doesn't want to believe it either. So he was taking a gamble. He was betting that Luo Qingtong might be able to rush back. He was betting that something would not happen to her so easily. If he made the wrong bet, he would admit defeat. But if he made the right bet, his wife and son would have a better chance of survival if he could hold on for even a moment longer. Why didn't he do that? Even if he had to sacrifice his life, he would gladly do it. "Father." Huangfu Shi's voice choked up even more. At this moment, bam! Outside the forbidden area, a series of violent explosions suddenly sounded. Who is it? The guards of the Sea Emperor's dragon court who were guarding the forbidden area were all shocked. They looked in the direction of the sound. In the next second, an extremely dazzling and terrifying sword aura swept out in front of them. In an instant, the entire space was lit up. Everyone who stood in front of this sword light was annihilated by this sword light. Bam! 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 Their bodies exploded in an instant. They did not even have time to scream. When this sword aura swept out, a figure also swept into this space. "Kill them all." Luo Qingtong's voice was cold. She floated in the air with a long sword in her hand. Her red robe was as bright as the sun and as red as a fiery lotus. Her beautiful face was filled with an icy coldness. Yes. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others had already released their auras, completely enveloping this space. No matter what kind of movement it was impossible for it to spread out at this time. Under Luo Qingtong's command, they rushed out and killed the remaining Sea Emperor's dragon court members in an instant. The latter and the others were terrified to the extreme. When Luo Qingtong appeared, they had already recognized her. She was the girl who had a grudge against the third princess of the Sea Emperor. Not only that, but the strength of the group of people following them was simply terrifying. The group had witnessed the strength of the Breeze Pavilion. In their eyes, that was already extremely powerful. But at this moment, in front of the people brought by Luo Qingtong, the strength of those people from the Breeze Pavilion was not worth mentioning at all. Oh no, what kind of enemy did they provoke? The people of the Breeze Pavilion were already rare experts from the sects in the hidden world. Could it be that this foreign girl's background was even more powerful than theirs? Everyone was shocked to the extreme. They wanted to warn the others, but before they could do anything, they were all killed by Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others. Bam, bam, bam. Chapter 1728. Translations. As if realizing something, the Sea Emperor's heart was filled with excitement. His face, which was like a lamp that had run out of oil and looked extremely defeated, instantly became rosy. Whoosh! He used all his strength to release a ray of light. In the blink of an eye, the scene of the forbidden area outside was revealed to them. Huangfu Shi immediately cried out. Big sister. He looked at the beautiful and domineering girl standing outside with a sword in her hand, and tears flowed uncontrollably from his eyes. Big sister is here, this is great. Nothing will happen to him, his parents, and the others. Big sister. The Sea Emperor cancelled his sacrifice. In the blink of an eye, the group of people appeared outside the forbidden area. Huangfu Shi immediately threw himself at Luo Qingtong and hugged her tightly, choking with sobs. Big sister saved him again. Not only that, but she also saved his parents. Big sister, it's great that you're here. I thought I would never see you again. His voice was choked with sobs. It's okay now. Luo Qingtong patted him lightly when she felt the young man's body trembling slightly. After going through so many unforeseen events at once, the little fellow had done quite well. She looked at the pale and defeated Sea Emperor, whose aura was incomparably weak. She roughly knew what had happened. The forbidden area couldn't be opened casually. When the Sea Emperor wanted to send her and Yi Qianxian into the forbidden area, he needed the cooperation of several elders. He must have paid an extremely heavy price to open the forbidden area on his own. Huangfu Shi witnessed all this with his own eyes, and he must have been greatly shocked and frightened. After all, this kind of separation was not something anyone could bear. Sea Emperor, Sea Empress, elders. Luo Qingtong nodded at them. This incident happened because of me. I will do my best to eliminate everything in the Sea Emperor's dragon court. I will kill the third princess and the people from the Breeze Pavilion. When the time comes, please bear witness to everything. Also, I am willing to form an alliance with the Sea Emperor's dragon court. In the future, anyone who dares to go against the Sea Emperor's dragon court will be my enemy. Heaven and earth bear witness to this oath. Luo Qingtong made a solemn promise. She was the main reason behind the massive upheaval in the Sea Emperor's dragon court. The entire Sea Emperor dragon court had been severely wounded, and it was inevitable that there would be people who would try to take advantage of the situation in the future. Luo Qingtong would never sit idly by. Thank you, evil doctor. The Sea Emperor's face was pale and weak. After persevering for so many days, his life force and strength were almost exhausted. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong came in time. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to hold on for another day. Our Sea Emperor's dragon court deserves this calamity. The third princess of the Sea Emperor is such a vile creature, and the heretic physician was almost put in danger. I feel extremely guilty. As he spoke, he couldn't help but cough twice. His complexion turned even paler. Father. Huangfu Shi couldn't help but rush to his side as tears streamed down his face again. Cough cough. The Sea Emperor's dragon court will be under your control from now on. You can't cry so easily, understand? The Sea Emperor looked at Huangfu Shi. His life force and strength had been severely depleted, and there was no way he could lead the Sea Emperor's dragon court. Chapter 1729. I understand, Father. Huangfu Shi looked at the weak voice of the Sea Emperor and forced back the tears in his eyes. Imperial Father, I will never cry again. Nothing will happen to you. Father, you will be fine. The Sea Emperor coughed softly, then looked at Luo Qingtong and said, Evil doctor, I want to pass on my lifetime of strength and understanding to through the secret inheritance technique of the Sea Emperor's dragon court. Please protect me. This was a secret inheritance technique that only the Sea Emperors of each generation knew. As long as it was a normal succession, the Sea Emperor would receive the inheritance of the previous Sea Emperor. The person who received the inheritance would have their strength greatly increased. At the same time, they would also receive the cultivation experience and understanding of the previous Sea Emperor. In the future, they would be able to take fewer detours and have almost no bottlenecks. The Sea Emperor was going to pass on this inheritance to Huangfu Shi. When he was in the Forbidden Grounds, he had already heard from the people of the Sea Emperor's dragon court that the third princess of the Sea Emperor would ascend the throne tomorrow. He could not let her steal the Sea Emperor's position. The Sea Emperor's Dragon Court's matters should be settled by the people of the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court. Huangfu Shi must obtain the Sea Emperor's position himself. Otherwise, he would not be worthy of being the king of the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. She roughly understood the Sea Emperor's thoughts and did not say much. She only asked Bei Qing, Fengyu, and the others to protect them and not let anyone disturb their inheritance. Seeing this, the Sea Emperor was relieved and began to pass on the inheritance to Huangfu Shi. In the palace of the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court, the third princess, Song Yan, and the others were proud. Miss Song, don't worry. After I inherit the Sea Emperor's position tomorrow, I will erase all information about that foreign slut from the northern region. No one will know how she died. No one will link it to you. The third princess of the Sea Emperor sat on the Sea Emperor's chair with a proud expression. After tomorrow, she would be the true ruler of the northern region. The cause of Luo Qingtong's death would be completely erased from the northern region. No one would know how she died. And no one would be able to avenge her. That woman, just wait to die with everlasting regret. Also, the little fox that the man in her hands had turned into would also fall into his hands. When she thought of Yi Qianxian's handsome face and the demon clan's secret techniques, the smug look on the third princess' face became even more pronounced. Not only did that B*TCH die miserably, her man would also become her man. He wondered how much despair and unwillingness she must be feeling down there. It was a pity that he couldn't see such a scene. When the third princess of the sea spoke, Song Yan felt extremely pleased with herself. Luo Qingtong had offended her several times before, and then she had beaten her up into Qi's holy capital. Now, she had finally gotten her revenge. By the time the third princess of the Sea Emperor erased all information about her in the northern region, even if that Ming Zun of the Black Field was extremely powerful, he wouldn't be able to find out how she died, let alone avenge her. The more Song Yan thought about it, the more pleased she felt. A little girl from the true Spill Continent's mortal world actually wanted to compete with her for senior apprentice brother Falling Moon? She really didn't know how she died. Chapter 1730. It was just a few casual provocations, but Uncle Master Zhang was already enraged by her. At this moment, she probably didn't know how martial Uncle Zhang was torturing her. Otherwise, why would Uncle Master Zhang not return until now? Song Yan felt even more smug at the thought of this. Alright, then I'll thank the third princess first. If nothing goes wrong, Uncle Master Zhang should be back with that woman's body tomorrow. Then, take it as a congratulatory gift for your ascension to the throne, third princess. What do you think? She smiled at the third princess of the Sea Emperor. Of course, that would be great. The third princess of the Sea Emperor smiled coldly. I'll send people to prepare a large number of sea beasts. Then, we'll chop up that bitch's body and feed it to them. It's a pity, the smile on her lips became even colder and more venomous. The people of the Breeze Pavilion must kill her. Otherwise, bring her back alive and torture her in every possible way. That's a good idea. Don't worry. Even if we don't bring her back, I'm afraid the torture she'll suffer will not be light. Song Yan looked very pleased. How angry was Uncle Master Zhang? How could Luo Qingtong be well after falling into his hands? The body that he brought back tomorrow would probably be unrecognizable and completely deformed. As the two of them spoke, they looked at each other and smiled. There was an indescribable viciousness in the depths of their eyes. The next day, tens of thousands of people gathered at the square where the statue of the Sea Emperor was. Everyone on the Sea Emperor Island was gathered at the square that was usually used for ceremonies. They watched as the third princess of the Sea Emperor dressed in splendid attire and prepared to accept the recognition of the statue of the Sea Emperor to inherit the throne. Once the Sea Emperor succession ceremony was started, the statue of the Sea Emperor would select the one with the purest bloodline and the best talent to inherit the throne of the Sea Emperor in this generation. After inheriting the throne of the Sea Emperor would be able to take control of all islands in the northern region that had statues of the Sea Emperor. From then on, the power of the Sea Emperor would shift. The person who gained control of the Sea Emperor's dragon court would be the real Sea Emperor. He would be able to command the entire Sea Emperor's dragon court and the northern region. The previous Sea Emperor would automatically abdicate. Because of this unique method of succession, every generation of the Sea Emperor's position was filled with bloodshed. Every direct descendant wanted to ascend the throne. Not every direct descendant of the Sea Emperor could successfully become the Sea Emperor. The loser would never be able to make a comeback. The only exceptions were the third princess and the first prince. And now, they had successfully made use of this exception to turn things around. The third princess of the Sea Emperor proudly walked on the path leading to the statue of the Sea Emperor. At this time, in the Forbidden Area, the Sea Emperor and Huangfu Shi had also completed their inheritance. Cough cough, the Sea Emperor's face turned even paler. He had lost all his strength and was reduced to an ordinary person. All of his strength and comprehension were passed on to Huangfu Shi. The latter's aura surged, and the power around his body was majestic. He had already reached the Saint Realm. This was the Sea Emperor's reward for Huangfu Shi, at the cost of not being able to cultivate or possess power in the future. He held Huangfu Shi's hand tightly. Clean up the Sea Emperor Dragon Court for my father and inherit the throne of the Sea Emperor. Chapter 1731. He was no longer the young boy who would only hug Luo Qingtong and cry when he was in danger. During this period of time, he had grown a lot in the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court. And this life and death crisis made him mature even more. He looked at Luo Qingtong, his jade-white face full of determination. Sister. His voice was hoarse from crying. Let's go. He wanted the third princess of the Sea Emperor to pay the price for everything she had done. Okay. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded. The young boy had matured thoroughly in this unforeseen event. His innocence and kindness were all hidden in the corners, and they were all aimed at the enemy. This was good. When it was time to be kind, he was kind, and when it was time to be ruthless, he was ruthless. My sharp claws can kill when I open them, but when I retract them, they are soft. This was the best way to live. It was also the posture of a true ruler. Let's go, sister will take you to revenge. Luo Qingtong's eyes were sharp, and she looked in the direction of the Sea Emperor Island Square. That was the place where the third princess of the Sea Emperor's coronation ceremony was held. You two stay here and guard. The rest of you, come with me to the Sea Emperor statue square. Luo Qingtong's voice was slightly low. Previously, when the Sea Emperor withdrew his sacrifice and was expelled from the Forbidden Grounds, she took the opportunity to send Yi Qianren in. Now, Luo Qingtong was relieved to leave Bei Qing and Feng Yu, two people who had a special connection with Yi Qianxian, here. The others all went with her to the Sea Emperor statue square. She wanted the third princess of the Sea Emperor and the people of the Breeze Pavilion, none of them could escape. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold, and she took the lead to rush out with Huangfu Shi. The others from the Black Field followed behind her, bringing along the Sea Emperor, the Sea Empress, and the others. In an instant, the group of people left the forbidden area of the Sea Emperor and headed towards the square where the statue of the Sea Emperor was. On the plaza of the Sea Emperor's statue, the surrounding adepts danced and danced, using the unique ritual dance of the Sea Emperor's royal court to awaken the remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor within the statue. The entire Sea Emperor's dragon court and even the Sea Emperor Island would only be under the control of the successor. And that person was the new Ocean Emperor. Buzz. As the wizards danced, unique energy fluctuations continuously entered the statue of the Sea Emperor. Soon, the statue of the Sea Emperor began to tremble faintly. In the next second, its eyes lit up. A faintly discernible consciousness power awoke from its body. At this moment, the entire statue of the Emperor of the Sea seemed to have come alive. Sea Emperor. Seeing the movement of the statue of the Sea Emperor, many people in the square cheered loudly in an instant. That voice was filled with indescribable fanaticism. The third princess of the Sea Emperor also looked at the statue of the Sea Emperor with a scorching and proud gaze. Sea Emperor, please choose the successor of the Sea Emperor. The surrounding adepts had already stopped dancing. At this moment, the great wizard in the lead waved his hand. In the next second, a ray of light suddenly shot out from the statue of the Sea Emperor, sweeping across the crowd of direct descendants of the Sea Emperor's royal court in the square. The third princess of the Sea Emperor's face was filled with pride. Among this generation of direct descendants of the Sea Emperor's royal court, her bloodline was the purest, and the talent she had awakened was not bad. She would be the only candidate for the Sea Emperor. Chapter 1732. After the ray of light swept through all the people who were suitable to inherit the throne, it stopped on the third princess of the Sea Emperor. Buzz! The ray of light that shot out from the statue of the Sea Emperor was faintly trembling. Seeing this scene, the third princess of the sea revealed a proud and complacent smile. From now on, I'm the new Sea Emperor. Who said so? As her voice rang out, another voice that was incomparably cold rang out at this moment. I'm the real Sea Emperor. Swoosh! When this voice sounded, the light that was originally fixed on the third princess of the Sea Emperor's body suddenly moved in the direction of the voice. Buzz! After the ray of light was fixed there, it suddenly trembled. The frequency was much stronger than when it was fixed on the third princess of the Sea Emperor. The trembling voice sounded like it was cheering. Indeed, there was no harm without comparison. Compared to the frequency of the trembling that was close to cheering, the third princess of the Sea Emperor's trembling voice sounded like she was going to heaven. She looked like a clown. And her words of, "She will be the emperor of the seas from now on," sounded like a joke to her. It's you? Huang Fushi? When the voice sounded, the third princess of the Sea Emperor suddenly turned around and saw the young man who walked out of the crowd. Beside Huang Fushi, there was also a beautiful young girl who was walking slowly towards them. The pupils of the third princess of the Sea Emperor instantly shrank. This foreign slut didn't die? Did she help Huang Fushi? Huang Fushi was supposed to be in the forbidden area. Even if he came out, he would be dead. He was destined to be surrounded and killed by the people she left there. When she saw Luo Qingtong next to him, how could the third princess of the Sea Emperor not understand what happened? She couldn't understand how Luo Qingtong escaped from senior Uncle Zhang's hands. Damn it! That person from the Breeze Pavilion said he was a holy general. How could he not be able to deal with this slut? Or could it be that the little fox beside this slut had helped her? The third princess of the Sea Emperor glanced at Luo Qingtong, but didn't see Yi Qianxian. She immediately confirmed her guess. In an instant, she gritted her teeth and her eyes turned red with jealousy. In her opinion, Yi Qianxian must have used some extremely powerful secret technique of the demon race to help Luo Qingtong, even at the cost of his own life. That was how the latter managed to escape the pursuit of that martial Uncle Zhang. How could this woman be so lucky? That man was so handsome and valiant, and he also had the pure bloodline of the demon clan, yet he was willing to do anything for her. The third princess gritted her teeth as she glared at Luo Qingtong. Then, she sneered. It was a pity that this woman was so stupid that she actually dared to come back and throw away her life. She probably thought that after saving Huang Fushi and helping him become the Sea Emperor, she would be able to deal with her. Unfortunately, she didn't know that even if Huang Fushi was recognized by the statue of the Sea Emperor, it would still take him at least 15 minutes to integrate the control of all the islands of the Sea Emperor's dragon court that the statue of the Sea Emperor had transferred to him. This period of time was enough for her to kill them all. Chapter 1733. She raised her finger and pointed at Luo Qingtong and Huang Fushi. Huang Fushi was completely enveloped by the light of the sea god's statue and was beginning to accept the control of the statue. Rays of light were transmitted from the statue to his body. Seeing this scene, those who had taken the initiative to seek refuge with the third princess of the Sea Emperor immediately rushed over. As for those who were forced to submit to the third princess of the Sea Emperor, although they wanted to help Luo Qingtong and Huang Fushi, They didn't dare to act rashly when they saw the people from the Breeze Pavilion on the high platform not far away. The people from the Breeze Pavilion are too strong. Sigh, the little prince can't defeat them. Everyone looked at Huangfu Shi, who was enveloped by the light of the sea god statue, and felt despair. It would be fine if the people from the Breeze Pavilion were not on the Sea Emperor Island. With their strength, they could fight against the third princess and protect Huangfu Shi so that he could succeed in becoming the Sea Emperor. But they could feel the layers of power surrounding them, and they couldn't move at all. On the high platform not far away, Song Yan and the people from the Breeze Pavilion gritted their teeth when they saw Luo Qingtong and Huangfu Shi appear. What's going on? She looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. How is this woman not dead? What is Uncle Master Zhang doing? Song Yan gritted her teeth, but her expression soon relaxed. It's good that she's not dead. Although I don't know how she escaped from Uncle Master Zhang, she was stupid enough to come to the Sea Emperor Island and walk right into our trap, Song Yan sneered. She probably thought that Uncle Master Zhang was the only one from the Breeze Pavilion who came to kill her. She thought that she could come back and save the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court after she got rid of Uncle Master Zhang? What a joke. I'll see how you die later. Song Yan ordered the people from the Breeze Pavilion to intimidate the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court. Luo Qingtong did not want to take the road to heaven, but instead chose to barge into hell. She was waiting to see how the third princess of the Sea Emperor would torture her to death. He thought of the group of sea beasts prepared by the third princess of the sea god. She sneered in her heart. Later, Luo Qingtong would be able to enjoy the taste specially prepared for her. She sat on a large wooden chair with a content expression as she watched the members of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court rush toward Luo Qingtong. She was prepared to watch a good show. However, kill them all. Seeing the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court rushing over, Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't even look at them as she spoke coldly. Her voice sounded, and in the next second, bang bang bang. In an instant, the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court who were charging towards Luo Qingtong and Huangfu Shi all exploded in midair. The figures of the Black Field members were revealed. At the same time, Luo Qingtong's figure flew up. Protect little Lucky. As soon as she finished speaking, she appeared in front of the third princess. The latter was stunned and had no idea what was going on. How did this foreign slut have so many powerful cultivators by her side? The third princess of the Sea Emperor had never fought against Luo Qingtong before, so she naturally didn't know that there were so many people protecting her. Moreover, they were so strong. Chapter 1734. Just as the third princess of the Sea Empire was thinking about this, Luo Qingtong had already sent her flying with a slap. Luo Qingtong's strength had already risen to the Saint Realm. This slap instantly sent the third princess of the Sea Empire tumbling over a dozen times in the air before crashing heavily onto the ground. The third princess of the Sea Empire lay on the ground, constantly vomiting blood. Her mouth was filled with blood and teeth. If Luo Qingtong had not promised Huangfu Jin that she would leave her for him to deal with, the third princess of the Sea Empire would have been slapped to death by Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong's gaze was cold. Her gaze swept past the third princess of the Sea Empire who was lying on the ground vomiting blood before finally fainting completely. She then raised her eyes to look at Song Yan and the others in the spectator stands. What? The smug look on Song Yan's face completely disappeared at this moment. She looked at Luo Qingtong, who was dressed in fiery red, standing in the square. Then, she looked at the group of people from the Black Field surrounding Huangfu Jin. Her heart was filled with disbelief. How could this be? This woman's strength had already reached the Saint Realm. Not only that, but the people around her were not any weaker than the people from the Breeze Pavilion. How could this be? How could this woman have such a strong force by her side? She could not believe it. Song Yan's face was distorted. The people from the Breeze Pavilion beside her were also in disbelief. No, junior sister, we have to leave this place immediately. As they spoke, they hurriedly tried to take Song Yan away. However, it was too late. Bloody cross slash. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold as she watched the people from the breeze pavilion dash out. She threw away the handkerchief she used to wipe her hands with and raised her hand to launch a wild attack. Hundreds of meters away, the life and death sword in Luo Qingtong's hand instantly transformed into the shape of a death blade. In the next second, streaks of bloody light mixed with the black aura of the death blade swept out in an instant and blasted towards the people from the breeze pavilion in front of her. None of them had expected Luo Qingtong to be able to unleash such an attack. The bloody cross slash was originally a martial technique of the Saint Realm. With Luo Qingtong's current strength, she was able to fully display its might. In addition to the effect of the death blade in her hand, she was like the Grim Reaper reaping the lives of the Breeze Pavilion members in front of her. These people from the Breeze Pavilion thought that Luo Qingtong was the only one who could stop them. He didn't expect Luo Qingtong's attack to be so sharp. In an instant, the bodies of the people from the Breeze Pavilion, who were carrying Song Yan forward, suddenly fell to the ground under the light of Luo Qingtong's blood-colored cross. Not only that, but some of the weaker ones had their bodies chopped into several pieces in midair. Not for anything else, Luo Qingtong's current strength, coupled with the effects of the Saint Realm's martial arts and death blade, was completely invincible against those of the same realm. Bang bang bang. The bodies of the people from the Breeze Pavilion fell heavily to the ground. They wailed in pain and the pieces of their bodies mixed with the rain of blood all fell on their bodies. The ground was filled with the smell of blood. The other people from the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court were all stunned. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong in shock. The strength displayed by the young girl had really shocked them. Chapter 1735. This is impossible. How is this possible? Song Yan had never thought that she would fall into the hands of Luo Qingtong. Even when she saw that Luo Qingtong's strength had risen to the sage stage and that the people around her were also so powerful, she did not feel much fear other than hatred and jealousy. After all, she felt that Luo Qingtong would not dare to kill her. Even the people from the Black Field would not. At most, she would teach them a lesson like she did in the holy capital of the great Qi dynasty. After all, they were from the Breeze Pavilion, a 6th-grade sect in the hidden world. However, Luo Qingtong had killed almost half of them with a raise of her hand. Not to mention how terrifying the power was, she did not dare to imagine that the other party would dare to kill so many of them. Luo Qingtong, you bitch. She lay on the ground and looked at Luo Qingtong, who was covered in blood and flesh. The stench almost made her vomit. Song Yan's face was filled with disbelief and hysteria. How could Luo Qingtong dare to kill them? How dare she? Her screams shocked the people from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court, as well as the remaining people from the Breeze Pavilion who were lying on the ground and howling in pain. They looked in Song Yan's direction in shock. Looking at her twisted expression, they could not believe what they had just heard. Was junior sister crazy? She still wanted to scold Luo Qingtong at a time like this. Did she think that they were not dying fast enough? The people from the Breeze Pavilion were in disbelief. They could not understand Song Yan's thoughts and brain circuits. Everyone from the Sea Emperor Dragon Court felt like she was a lunatic. Luo Qingtong did not dare to kill her. Why wouldn't he dare to kill her? Just because she was from the Breeze Pavilion? She was going to kill someone. Was she not allowed to kill her and let her go so that she could gather more power to take revenge? However, the name Luo Qingtong seemed a little familiar. Everyone complained in their hearts as they thought about it. Then, someone suddenly widened his eyes. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Luo Qingtong is that evil Dr. Gui Tong's real name. The grand meeting of the 4 academies had already ended a long time ago. The news that Luo Qingtong was evil Dr. Ghost Pupil had already spread throughout the entire True Spill continent. The members of the Sea Emperor's Dragon Court in the northern region had naturally heard about this as well. They looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong in shock. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye? This young girl who was on good terms with their little prince was actually the evil Dr. Ghost Pupil whose name shook the entire True Spill continent. Under everyone's gaze, Luo Qingtong slowly walked toward Song Yan, who was half sprawled on the ground. The aura around her expanded. Enveloped by her aura, Song Yan tried to get up a few times, but was suppressed by her. Luo Qingtong, my father is the Grand Elder of the Breeze Pavilion. If you dare to touch me, our Breeze Pavilion won't let you off. When the time comes, I'll definitely kill your entire family. Song Yan roared hysterically. She did not believe that Luo Qingtong would really dare to kill her. This bitch, she must be deliberately trying to scare her. Luo Qingtong stopped in her tracks. The Grand Elder of the Breeze Pavilion? Luo Qingtong lowered her eyes and looked at Song Yan, who was lying at her feet. That's right. Song Yan thought that Luo Qingtong was scared by her and revealed a proud and cold smile. Chapter 1736. Is that so? That's quite impressive. However, Luo Qingtong looked at her and smiled. That smile was filled with icy coldness and murderous intent. I even dared to kill people from Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King's Valley. Do you think I wouldn't dare to kill you? The smile on Luo Qingtong's lips was evil. She whispered these words into Song Yan's ears and sealed her mouth at the same time. Luo Qingtong's voice sounded like the whisper of a demon in her ears. Song Yan's face instantly turned pale. She stared at Luo Qingtong with wide eyes. She tried her best to open her mouth, but nothing came out. It was her. It was this woman who had made them the scapegoat of the previous Celestial Palace. There was also the matter of the Beast-Taming King Valley's elite disciples being killed in the hidden world. She was also the one who did it. This woman even dared to kill people from Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King's Valley? That was a third-class sect and a first-class sect. Song Yan stared at Luo Qingtong in disbelief. Her face was filled with despair and shock. It was only now that she realized how laughable it was for her to go against Luo Qingtong. That would be equivalent to sending himself to his death. It was laughable that she had thought that Luo Qingtong wouldn't dare to kill her. Song Yan finally felt fear and regret, but it was too late. Luo Qingtong kicked her to the side. Drag her down. Deal with the third princess the way she wanted to deal with us. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed with a bloody light. Hearing this, Song Yan screamed in agony. She recalled the methods that the third princess of the Sea Emperor had used to deal with Luo Qingtong. It could be said to be extremely cruel and terrifying. Previously, when she was listening from the side, she only felt that it was very satisfying. Now that she was about to experience it herself, she knew what it meant to be in the abyss. In an instant, she lost control of her bladder. Before she could cry out and beg for mercy, the people from the Sea Emperor's royal court who had been suppressed by them swarmed forward, gagged her, and dragged her down. These people had lost many of their clansmen when the Breeze Pavilion helped the third princess clean up the Sea Emperor's royal court. They hated Song Yan and the others to the core. As long as the people from the Breeze Pavilion were still alive, they were dragged down by them. They were well aware of the methods that the third princess of the sea had instructed them to use to deal with Luo Qingtong's corpse. They were sure that the people of the Breeze Pavilion would enjoy it very comfortably. As for Luo Qingtong, when she kicked Song Yan away, she had already destroyed all of her abilities and meridians. She also left a ball of power in her body. Under the control of Luo Qingtong's mind, this ball of energy could destroy her body with just a thought. Luo Qingtong would not give Song Yan and the rest a chance to escape. Of course, in order to implant this power, the other party had to be completely defenseless. After Luo Qingtong was done, she turned to look at Huang Fuxi, who was receiving the transfer of power from the Sea Emperor statue. The Sea Emperor and the others had also arrived at the plaza. With the Sea Emperor's support, he walked up to Luo Qingtong and thanked her. "Thank you, evil doctor." "It's nothing," Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She was just about to say something when a bright light suddenly flashed in the depths of her eyes, and when she looked at Huang Fuxi again, her expression had already changed. Oh no. Chapter 1737. Translations. At this moment, she suddenly charged towards Huang Fushi. Demonic doctor? Seeing this, the Sea Emperor and the others were inexplicably surprised. Then, they hurriedly cried out. No! Demonic doctor, you can't. When inheriting the Sea Emperor's throne, you can't be disturbed, or you'll lose your qualifications. Demonic doctor. The Sea Emperor's voice was urgent, and he hurriedly ordered the people around him to stop Luo Qingtong. Now that the third princess of the Sea Emperor's rebellion had been purged, the entire Sea Emperor's dragon court naturally obeyed the Sea Emperor's orders again. Before Huang Fushi fully inherited the throne, everyone's commander was still the Sea Emperor. At this moment, seeing Luo Qingtong rushing towards Huang Fushi, the group of people from the Sea Emperor's dragon court didn't know what was going on, but they obeyed the order and rushed towards Luo Qingtong. Demonic doctor, we're sorry. The group of people from the Sea Emperor's dragon court wanted to stop Luo Qingtong. However, Luo Qingtong didn't care about them at all. All of you, get out of my way. Her expression was stern, and she only focused on Huang Fushi, who was enveloped in the light of the Sea Emperor's statue. The latter's eyes were tightly shut, and his face was indescribably serene. However, the image in Luo Qingtong's blood-red eyes wasn't like this. In her eyes, in the depths of Huang Fushi's mind, a ball of light was constantly attacking his brain, trying to devour his soul. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. If she hadn't suddenly thought of wanting to see how the Sea Emperor's statue's authority was transferred, she probably wouldn't have known that such an unforeseen event was happening in Huang Fushi's body. Damn it! The ball of light that invaded Huang Fushi's mind was the light shining from the Sea Emperor's statue. The remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor was trying to possess Huang Fushi's body. Luo Qingtong's heart trembled when she thought of how Huang Fushi had transformed into a mermaid in front of her, and then she thought of how she only saw part of the people from the Sea Emperor's dragon court during the Sea Emperor's sacrificial ceremony. If she guessed correctly, the half-demon bloodline in Huang Fushi's body was very strong, very close to that of the first Sea Emperor. Therefore, after the first Sea Emperor's consciousness of the Sea Emperor's statue came into contact with Huang Fushi's body, it wanted to possess him. It was the first Sea Emperor, the first Sea Emperor's body's remnant consciousness of the sea, the first Sea Emperor's body. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she immediately ordered the people from the dark region, stop them. Nothing must happen to little Lucky. She's Sea Emperors the Dragon Sea Emperor Xuanyu She's Emperors She S Emperor S Emperors S Re S The consciousness of the Sea Emperor's statue actually wanted to possess She's body, it was simply courting death. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold, and the life and death yin-yang sword in her hand had already been unsheathed, wanting to cut off the connection between the Sea Emperor's statue and Huang Fushi. The people from the Sea Emperor's dragon court were all stopped by the people from the Black Field. When they saw Luo Qingtong's action, they couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Demonic doctor. Everyone was anxious, and the Sea Emperor was even more anxious. He rushed forward 2 steps and almost fell to the ground. Demonic doctor, you can't. Just as he spoke, the Sea Emperor's statue seemed to have sensed Luo Qingtong's action. Chapter 1738. Boom. 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 Beams of light intertwined and fell from the sky in an instant. This was the defense of Sea Emperor Island built by the first Sea Emperor. At this moment, it was activated, forming a deadly force that blasted towards Luo Qingtong. Even if Martial Uncle Zhang was here, he would probably be blasted to pieces by the attack formed by these lights. Luo Qingtong's eyes were piercingly cold. The bloody light in her eyes flickered violently, and she was about to find the key point of this defense. At this moment, swoosh! A hand suddenly appeared at her waist and pulled her into an embrace. Then, there was a boom. An extremely majestic and vast power erupted from a figure that appeared beside Luo Qingtong in an instant. In the blink of an eye, the entire intertwined protective light, which had almost cut the entire sky, was blasted apart in an instant. Boom! The man standing beside Luo Qingtong had a cold look in his eyes. He was dressed in a black gilded robe with silver lining. In this explosion of protective light, he was like a god descending. Yi Qianxian raised his sleeve and waved. The protective light that gathered in the sky once again seemed to be frozen in midair. At the same time, Luo Qingtong's attack flew past Huangfu Shi and the Sea Emperor statue in an instant, cutting off the light that connected them. Bang! Huangfu Shi suddenly fell to the ground, his little face as pale as a sheet of gold paper. Sister! He looked at Luo Qingtong and glanced at the Sea Emperor statue. His eyes were full of fear. He was suddenly attacked when he was halfway through receiving the authority. Because he was unprepared, there was no way to resist. If Luo Qingtong hadn't discovered it, perhaps no one would have known that the soul in his body had changed. What was going on? Why did the Sea Emperor statue suddenly attack him? Huangfu Shi's face was full of horror. The Sea Emperor and the others also saw some clues from Huangfu Shi's unusual reaction. The Sea Emperor and the others found it hard to accept. The consciousness of the Sea Emperor statue actually wants to possess Shi-er? Especially Hai-Ho, she ran over and hugged Huangfu Shi, crying. Huangfu Shi had no chance to resist the Sea Emperor's consciousness that was trying to take over his body. This was too terrifying. If it weren't for Luo Qingtong, no one would have known that Huangfu Shi had died. The Sea Empress was terrified. She hugged Huangfu Shi tightly. After severing the connection between Huangfu Shi and the statue, Luo Qingtong looked up at Yi Qianxian. Qianren. She looked at the handsome face of the man above her head. He recovered? Luo Qingtong was pleasantly surprised. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. He hugged Luo Qingtong and looked coldly at the statue of the Sea Emperor. He didn't care what the other party wanted to do, but if they dared to attack Luo Qingtong, then they were unforgivable. Boom! As Yi Qianxian raised his hand, the Sea Emperor statue seemed to be enveloped by an invisible palm in an instant. With a bang, its body suddenly exploded. In the next second, Yi Qianxian raised his hand and pulled out a ball of consciousness that was constantly twisting and struggling. That ball of consciousness formed a translucent figure in midair. It was 70 to 80% similar to the mermaid form that Huangfu Shi had transformed into for Luo Qingtong. Chapter 1739. The First Sea Emperor. The Sea Emperor and the others felt a chill in their hearts as they looked at the consciousness strength that had taken form. The members of the Sea Emperor's dragon court and the people around them were also shocked. The remnant consciousness of the First Sea Emperor was trying to possess Huangfu Shi. The people of the North region regarded the First Sea Emperor as a god, so they never expected this to happen. The people from the Sea Emperor's dragon court were even more shocked. They looked at the remnant consciousness that was being held by Yi Qianxian's power, and they had mixed feelings. The succession ceremony of the Sea Emperor's dragon court had always been very strange. Logically speaking, everyone was a direct descendant of the Sea Emperor, so it was understandable that the person with the purest bloodline and the strongest power was chosen to inherit the throne. But why did the person with the purest bloodline and the most powerful talent be chosen? All along, everyone thought that the First Sea Emperor wanted to choose the most worthy next generation to ensure that the talent of the Sea Emperor's bloodline could be passed down for a long time to come. However, they now knew that this was not the case at all. The reason why the First Sea Emperor set up such a succession ceremony was to prepare for his resurrection in the future. He wanted to choose the most suitable successor for his consciousness to possess. He was not choosing the successor of the Sea Emperor at all. He was choosing the body he wanted to possess. The reason why the previous generations of Sea Emperors were fine was because their forms had not yet reached its requirements. However, Huangfu Shi's transformation was 70 to 80% similar to his. Therefore, he chose Huangfu Shi immediately. After sorting out this layer of relationship, everyone looked at the remnant of the consciousness with an unusually complicated gaze. No one wanted to be possessed by someone else, even if that person was their ancestor. When they thought about how they had coveted the Sea Emperor's position before and how they were also in danger of being possessed by the Sea Emperor, everyone found it very difficult to accept. Bang! After the consciousness was grabbed by Yi Qianxian, it was still struggling with all its might. The entire Sea Emperor Island was faintly trembling. The 4 surrounding islands were in the midst of a buzzing sound as they suddenly soared into the sky and flew towards this side. The surrounding sea beasts and sea monsters were also in an uproar. Boom! 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 Waves that were thousands of feet high rolled up into the sky, and swept over in this direction as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. In just an instant, the entire Ocean Emperor Island seemed to be in the midst of a myriad of killing intent. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the ball of consciousness in Yi Qianxian's hand. The Sea Emperor clan had the ability to control water currents and sea beasts. And this ability was even more vividly displayed by the first Ocean Emperor. They had to deal with him as soon as possible, otherwise, their troubles would be endless. However, this remnant consciousness seemed to have become one with Sea Emperor Island. Unless the island was destroyed, there was no way to deal with it. This was troublesome. Luo Qingtong frowned as she looked at the ball of consciousness energy. Then, she saw Yi Qianren's palm suddenly flip downwards. In an instant, the consciousness that was constantly twisting and struggling in his palm was sent into a golden bead. In an instant, the storm calmed down and the waves stopped. At this moment, the 4 floating islands returned to their original positions. Chapter 1740. Qianren, what is this? Luo Qingtong looked at the golden bead in Yi Qianxian's hand. After the ball of consciousness was injected into the golden bead, it immediately stopped moving. It was sealed inside and did not move at all. Luo Qingtong looked at it and had some guesses in her heart. To be able to cut off the connection between this ball of consciousness and Sea Emperor Island in an instant and seal the remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor, this should be the Sea Emperor's heart. Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. He had noticed that something was wrong with Luo Qingtong through the abnormal movements of the Sea Emperor's heart. Buzz! At this moment, the golden bead suddenly began to vibrate. It was the remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor inside that was unwilling to be sealed and was desperately vibrating. Yi Qianxian's eyes were cold as he looked at the ball of consciousness that was constantly struggling and trying to break out of the bead. Want to come out? He snorted coldly and raised his hand to inject the golden bead into Huangfu Shi's body below. Refine. His voice was cold, and his words were concise. After he finished speaking, he raised his hand and an aura enveloped Huangfu Shi, suppressing the golden bead in his body that was about to fly out. Huangfu Shi got up from the ground and the paleness on his face had not completely receded. Hearing this, he immediately began to operate the aura in his body subconsciously. The Sea Emperor's heart in his body jumped up in an instant. As the sacred object of the Sea Emperor's family, this Sea Emperor's heart was actually an object of the monster clan. Even the first Sea Emperor could not completely command it and make it submit, let alone let it be refined by Huangfu Shi. It was naturally unwilling. However, Yi Qianxian's aura that enveloped Huangfu Shi's body made it completely unable to resist. It could only be firmly bound in Huangfu Shi's body and constantly refined by him. Needless to say, the ball of consciousness of the first Sea Emperor in its body was even more terrifying. Huangfu Shi refined this Sea Emperor's heart and made it his own. It was also naturally refined and absorbed by Huangfu Shi. Its power was constantly being swallowed and absorbed by Huangfu Shi. As the Sea Emperor's heart was being refined more and more, it obeyed Huangfu Shi's orders and its power was being absorbed faster and faster. The possession failed and it was being swallowed instead. Only now did the remnant consciousness of the first Sea Emperor know what it meant to regret. If it had a chance to do it all over again, no matter how outstanding Huangfu Shi's talent was, or how similar his form was to his, it would never try to possess him again. That man who stood in the sky like a god was truly terrifying. His power actually contained the aura of the heavenly Tao, making it completely unable to resist. Not to mention, there was also the aura of a high-level monster clan's aura. How could there be such a person in the true Spill continent? The remnant consciousness was horrified. Then, with a loud bang, it was completely absorbed by Huangfu Shi with a shrill scream. His heart's its s's. Bang! Huangfu Shi's aura soared in an instant. In just an instant, his aura skyrocketed. Chapter 1741. However, the remnant energy within it still raised his strength by 2 grades, allowing him to reach the saint stage in an instant. The heart of the Sea Emperor also floated above Huangfu Shi's head in an instant. When the Sea Emperor's heart floated out, the entire Sea Emperor Island and all the surrounding islands, including those that were extremely far away, began to tremble rapidly in an instant. Buzz! Screech! Sea beasts and sea monsters roared into the sky one after another, and the sound wave after wave spread to extremely far places. All the sea beasts in the entire North region seemed to roar at this moment, congratulating the birth of the new Sea Emperor. This was a treatment that none of the previous Sea Emperors had ever enjoyed. From now on, all the sea beasts and sea monsters in the North region would listen to Huangfu Shi's orders and dispatch. Countless waves and waves also surged into the sky at this moment, expressing their joy. The people of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court were dumbfounded. In the end, they all knelt on the ground and respectfully welcomed the birth of the new Sea Emperor. However, although they were congratulating Huangfu Shi, they were even more shocked by Yi Qianxian's godly means just now. He smashed the statue of the Sea Emperor with one palm and captured the consciousness of the first Sea Emperor with one hand. And that golden bead, even though the crowd did not hear what Yi Qianxian said to Luo Qingtong, judging from the fact that the first Sea Emperor's consciousness could not resist the golden bead at all, it was obvious that it was their sacred treasure, the heart of the Sea Emperor. The man sealed it with one hand and forced it to submit to Huangfu Shi and be refined by him. His godly power was simply indescribable. While the sea beasts roared in unison, in the distance, the people of the Breeze Pavilion, who were being dragged by the people of the Sea Emperor Dragon Court to feed the sea beasts, were completely devastated when they saw this scene from afar. In particular, Song Yan looked back at Yi Qianxian, who was standing in midair with a godlike aura and a domineering aura. Her heart instantly felt like it had been bombarded by something. Was this the Black Field Mingzun? The man who protected Luo Qingtong at all costs? Song Yan had not seen Yi Qianxian in the sacred capital of the Great Qi dynasty previously. When the man appeared in front of the people of the Breeze Pavilion, he had always been wearing a mask. Therefore, she did not know that the man who had endlessly protected Luo Qingtong would be so extraordinarily handsome. Looking at Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong, Song Yan felt unbearable pain, especially when Yi Qianxian was hugging Luo Qingtong in an extremely domineering manner. Song Yan's was unbearable pain. She had always thought that Dark Region Venerable was wearing a mask because he couldn't see anyone, and she had all kinds of dark speculations about how ugly and terrifying he was. Now that she had seen the man's true face, she finally realized how laughable all her previous guesses and thoughts were. Especially when she thought that Luo Qingtong would snatch Yan Yuju from her. In reality, as long as Luo Qingtong was not blind, she would not give up such a handsome and powerful man to snatch Yan Yuju from her. Even if she wanted to snatch Yan Yuju from her, she would be willing to give up. As long as the other party would give this man to her. Song Yan stared foolishly in Yi Qianxian's direction. Chapter 1742. He tilted his head slightly and glanced in Song Yan's direction. A look of disgust flashed across his eyes as he waved his sleeves. Bam! An extremely ferocious and domineering aura shot out in an instant. It passed through half of Sea Emperor Island and slammed into Song Yan. Ah! She screamed as she fell into the sea beside her. In an instant, the starving sea beasts that the third princess of the Sea Emperor had trapped in that area of the sea swarmed over and tore her to shreds. Ah! Song Yan's screams were endless. The rest of the people from the Breeze Pavilion were also pushed into the sea after the people from the Sea Emperor's royal court had knelt down to pay their respects. They were then eaten up by the sea beasts. Luo Qingtong sensed something when Yi Qianxian made his move. She turned her head and looked in that direction. Then, she looked at Yi Qianxian and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Yi Qianren's eyes were indifferent, but they were extremely cold and sinister. He hated it when people looked at him with that kind of covetous gaze. It was disgusting. Other than Luo Qingtong, he didn't like anyone else looking at him with that kind of gaze. He had come in a hurry this time. After he returned to his human form, he sensed that something had happened to Luo Qingtong and forgot to put on his mask. Yi Qianxian's expression was cold, and the aura around him was extremely cold. He raised his hand and put a dark golden mask on his face, covering his handsome face that was enraged by the heavens and the people. At this moment, Huang Fu Shi had also recovered from his extreme excitement. "Brother-in-law, thank you," he shouted happily. As soon as he said this, Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who had rushed over behind Yi Qianxian, looked at him strangely. This little boy is really something. The way he called him brother-in-law really resonated with their master's heart. The benefits he would receive would be endless. As expected, when Yi Qianxian heard Huang Fu Shi's words, he narrowed his eyes and smirked. "Feng Yu." Yi Qianxian waved his sleeves. In an instant, something flew out from his sleeve and shot towards Feng Yu. Feng Yu hurriedly caught it with a respectful look on his face. "Master. Give it to the Sea Emperor." Yi Qianxian's expression was indifferent. "Yes." Feng Yu replied. When he realized what he was holding, he sighed in his heart. This little Shota really hit the jackpot. Calling him brother-in-law in exchange for such a treasure, if the people outside were to find out, who knows how many people would die of envy. "Ocean Emperor, this is a gift from my master. Please accept it." He walked up to the Sea Emperor and raised his hand to present the item to him. This is... The Ocean Emperor looked at the things that Bei Qing had given him with the help of the people around him. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. Not because of anything else, but because this item that Bei Qing had given him exuded an extremely strong, demon power. The Sea Emperor's heart was filled with excitement when he saw this majestic and vigorous energy. "This is the heart of the heavenly demon fox." Feng Yu said in a low voice, "Sea Emperor, if you consume it, you can regain your talent and increase your lifespan by 100 years. Please accept it, Sea Emperor." The heart of the heavenly demon fox was only useful to the demon race. When Yi Qianxian killed the heavenly demon fox, he deliberately kept it for himself. Chapter 1743. But even so, it was already a great benefit. With the heart of the heavenly fox, the Sea Emperor could continue to purify and condense his demon clan bloodline in the future, making his form more complete and closer to becoming a half-demon. It could be said that the benefits of the heart of the heavenly fox to him were unimaginable. Hearing Feng Yu's words, the Sea Emperor and the rest instantly felt as if a huge pie had fallen from the sky. The heart of the heavenly fox? I can still cultivate in the future? And it can increase my lifespan by 100 years? The Sea Emperor looked at the heart of the heavenly fox in the brocade box in Feng Yu's hands. His voice trembled, as if he was in a dream. And the people around him were even more surprised and happy. They looked at the man standing high in the air in horror. They had no way to imagine how powerful he was to be able to obtain something like the heart of the heavenly fox. The heavenly fox, that was a high-level demon clan. And how powerful the demon clan was, they could see it in the ancient books of their clan. Everyone was shocked. And Huang Fu Shi was so happy that he almost jumped up. He tried his best to suppress his urge to rush to the Sea Emperor and said excitedly, "That's great, father. You can still cultivate in the future and live well." "Father." Huang Fu Shi was too happy in his heart. He was not stupid. No matter how the Sea Emperor comforted him and said that he would be fine, he clearly knew that the Sea Emperor would not live for long. His lifespan was almost exhausted. Even if he forced himself to hold on, it would only be a few years. But this time, he would be fine. Huangfu Shi was so happy that his face turned red. If he had not promised the Sea Emperor that he would not be childish in the future, he would have rushed into Luo Qingtong's arms. "Thank you, sister, brother-in-law. Thank you." Huangfu Shi was so happy that he kept thanking them. "You're welcome." Luo Qingtong looked at him and chuckled. She glanced at the man beside her. She was afraid that little she did not know that the heart of the heavenly fox was exchanged for by him unintentionally calling him brother-in-law. Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian and stifled a laugh. When did this man become so childish and childish? How could a mere title make him so happy? However, Luo Qingtong didn't know that Yi Qianxian was so happy because it was related to her. She was the only one he wanted to do with. He didn't have the time to participate in her past, but he would accompany her to the end in her future. After the Sea Emperor recovered, everything in the Sea Emperor's dragon court was cleaned up very quickly. All those who had betrayed the Sea Emperor and followed the third princess were purged and punished. Because he had received Luo Qingtong's promise that they would be allies in the future, the Sea Emperor wasn't worried that the Sea Emperor's dragon court would have no one to rely on because of his purge. Thus, his methods were extremely swift and decisive. It must be mentioned that the third princess of the Sea Emperor didn't die in the end. But she was in more pain than death. This was because the Sea Emperor's dragon court suffered heavy losses in the rebellion of the third princess of the Sea Emperor. After a unanimous decision, the third princess of the Sea Emperor's strength was crippled, her limbs were cut off, and she was sent to a brothel to be used as a fertility machine. She would spend the rest of her life under someone else's body. She would be in so much pain that she wished she was dead. Chapter 1744. Ha ha ha. Don't. On the sky-high flying ship, laughter that was as clear as silver bells rang out. Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others stood at the front of the control panel, motionless. They looked straight ahead, afraid that they would see something they shouldn't see. Behind them, on the bed that was usually used for resting, Luo Qingtong was laughing while trying to avoid Yi Qianxian. The man was dressed in black, tall, handsome, and domineering. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do anything to Luo Qingtong. The young girl arched her body, tightly protecting something in her bosom, not letting Yi Qianren snatch it away. Afraid of hurting her, Yi Qianxian couldn't use his strength. He looked at her and suddenly gritted his teeth. Luo Qingtong. He roared in a low voice. I'll say it again, give it to me. I won't. Luo Qingtong stuck out her tongue at him with a sly look. Did this man think that she would be afraid if he called himself I? She wasn't Bei Qing or Feng Yu. Yi Qianming was so angry that his head hurt. Why do you still want to keep those things? I'm telling you, you'd better give up the unrealistic fantasy in your mind. He would never do what she thought he would do. You know what I'm thinking again? Luo Qingtong looked at Yi Qianxian's dark face and chuckled. Seeing that he was about to take it again, she immediately arched her body again. Anyway, no matter how angry this man was, he wouldn't do anything to her. She wasn't afraid of him. What's more, didn't he always say that she was spoiled? If she didn't get angry, she would be sorry for being a scapegoat for so long. Luo Qingtong thought so and immediately looked at Yi Qianxian with a pair of sparkling eyes, proud and provocative, as if to say, come and take it if you can. I don't believe you can. Yi Qianxian couldn't help but grind his teeth when he saw her smug and arrogant expression. However, he really couldn't do anything to this woman. He couldn't bear to hurt her, couldn't bear to touch her, and could only allow her to be impudent in front of him. Yi Qianxian felt that the greatest calamity in his life was not that the heavens wanted to deal with him, but that he had met Luo Qingtong. He looked coldly at Luo Qingtong, the veins on his forehead bulging. Finally, he gritted his teeth and compromised, I'll leave you one. Without waiting for Luo Qingtong to speak, he coldly said, you're not allowed to bargain with me. Otherwise, don't even think about keeping a single item. If she had the ability, then she should continue to maintain this posture without moving. Otherwise, he would be able to snatch her away sooner or later. Luo Qingtong's eyes turned slightly. She knew that this was the man's bottom line. All right. She agreed readily. But I have the final say on which one to keep. She looked at Yi Qianyun with a cunning and evil look. The man snorted coldly and looked at her without saying anything, which meant that he agreed. Luo Qingtong immediately let go of the item in her arms. It turned out to be a useless ring. It contained all the little things that Luo Qingtong had made for Yi Qianxian when he was a silver treasure. Yi Qianxian's identity had been exposed, so naturally, he wouldn't let Luo Qingtong hold on to his dark history. Luo Qingtong took out a small cloth mouse and handed the useless ring to Yi Qianxian. Yi Qianxian's face darkened as he looked at the little cloth mouse, which still had small teeth and claw marks left on it. Chapter 1745. The voices of Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others sounded from the front. Master, the evil doctor, we've arrived at Great Chu. Grandfather. Luo Qingtong's figure appeared above the palace gates of Great Chu and rushed towards Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi, who had been waiting for her. Haha. Qingtong, it's good that you're back, it's good that you're back. Grandfather Luo looked at Luo Qingtong's figure with joy. It's good that my granddaughter is back. Ever since Luo Qingtong left, Grandfather Luo had been worried. Although he knew that Yi Qianxian, the Black Field's underworld revered, was by Luo Qingtong's side, the latter should be fine. But he couldn't feel at ease until he saw Luo Qingtong return safely. Good, good, good. Seeing that Luo Qingtong was unscathed, Grandfather Luo was overjoyed. At this moment, his eyes suddenly focused on Luo Qingtong. You. Grandfather Luo was pleasantly surprised. He looked at Luo Qingtong's aura in disbelief and stuttered. His granddaughter's aura and power, Saint Realm? He looked at his granddaughter's faintly discernible strength and power in shock. This power was far beyond the Saint Realm. Oh my God. I can't take it anymore. Grandfather Luo supported Empress Dowager Yan Shi with his hand, his face dizzy. I guess I'm a little dizzy and my eyes are playing tricks on me. Luo Qingtong looked at her grandfather's incredulous expression and couldn't help but laugh. Grandfather, you're right. She suddenly released the power around her, and the power of a Saint Realm expert was instantly revealed. Luo Qingtong retracted her aura and looked at Grandfather Luo and Empress Dowager Yan Shi's shocked expressions. She chuckled and said, I'm indeed a Saint Realm expert, oh my God. Old man Luo stared at Luo Qingtong, dumbfounded. Even Empress Dowager Yan Shi, who had always been calm and indifferent to honor and disgrace, could not hide the shock and regret on her face. Qingtong. You. Both of them were shocked speechless. Luo Qingtong's face was full of smiles. She glanced at old Master Luo's soft legs and felt a sense of pity. Unfortunately, on this trip to Bright Moon Island, he didn't find any medicinal herbs that could treat old Master Luo's legs. Otherwise, Grandpa Luo's legs would return to normal. Luo Qingtong's eyes were filled with regret. Yi Qianxian watched from the side. He held her fingertips gently and transmitted a message to her in a low voice, don't worry. I've already asked Bei Qing and the others to send a message to the outside world. Look out for the best herbs for bone regeneration. They'll send them over as soon as they have them. Old Master Luo's injury was troublesome because all the bones in his legs had been shattered by him. This was not something that could be solved by ordinary bone regeneration. Since the bones in his legs had been shattered to such an extent, they could only find medicinal herbs that could regenerate bones from nothing. Only then could they refine that kind of bone regeneration pill. Moreover, they had to do it without harming his body or damaging his future cultivation foundation. This was not easy to find. Otherwise, Yi Qianxian would have sent the medicine over when old Master Luo was injured. Yes. Luo Qingtong responded in a low voice. She also knew that this matter could not be rushed. Old Master Luo's health was more important. As for Feng Yuan, who had caused Old Master Luo to become like this, Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Chapter 1746. The wounds that Old Master Luo had suffered, he would make her pay back 1,000,000 times over. And somewhere in the true Spill continent, in an extremely dark and damp corner, countless snakes, insects, rats, and ants were constantly crawling around. A rotten smell wafted through the air. A lump of meat that seemed like a human but wasn't a human, seemed like a ghost but wasn't a ghost. It was a horrifying scene. Alright, there's still a bit more before the channel to the outer realms completely opens. At that time, you'll be able to leave this place. A blue smoke appeared in the air above the lump of meat. He frowned as he looked at the squirming lump of meat that was swallowing up the snakes, insects, rats, and ants. My strength has been completely exhausted. Feng Yuan, after leaving the true Spill continent, everything will be up to you. Don't cause any more trouble. It's impossible for me to save you again. To open the channel to the outer realms from the true Spill continent was an extremely terrifying consumption for this blue smoke. He wouldn't be able to wake up for at least 3 years. After Feng Yuan arrived at the outer realms, he could only rely on himself. If it weren't for the fact that he had no other choice, he would never sacrifice himself like this. Shut up. As the blue smoke's voice sounded out, the lump of meat that was crawling amongst the countless snakes, insects, rats, and ants suddenly rose up, revealing half of its face. It was Feng Yuan. If it weren't for you not telling me that Luo Qingtong had different pupils, and even blood pupils at that, how could I have lost so miserably to her? Feng Yuan's voice was filled with anger. Her voice was mixed with pain and moans. You never told me that Luo Qingtong had supreme blood pupils. What are those things? You told me that there was no such thing as blood pupils among the different pupils. The blue smoke had told her many things about different pupils, but she had never mentioned blood pupils. If the blue smoke had told her about blood pupils, then how could she have been tricked by Luo Qingtong again and again? It was impossible for her to have allowed her to grow to the point where she could threaten her. This was all the fault of the green smoke. The meatball that Feng Yuan had turned into struggled crazily on the ground. The reason why she had become like this was all because of him. I also didn't expect her to have the sovereign blood eye. Qingyan's voice was filled with anger, and there was an indescribable fear in it. That's impossible. In this world, how could there be a second pair of paragon blood eyes? If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, how could he have believed it? What the hell is going on? Feng Yuan questioned. Aren't Luo Qingtong's blood-red pupils heterochromatic pupils? Why can't it appear? You don't need to know why. Angered by Feng Yuan's questioning, the green smoke's voice was ice-cold. He didn't want to recall anything about the sovereign blood eye. It was a nightmare. And that nightmare had long passed. It was impossible for that person to return. Just focus on your cultivation. If there's a chance in the future, you might be able to seize that woman's blood-red pupils. The sovereign blood eye was unparalleled in the world. If Feng Yuan could obtain it, he would also be able to benefit from it. What? Hearing this, Feng Yuan stopped struggling. Can heterochromatic pupils be seized? Then why didn't he let her seize Luo Qingtong's pair of clear eyes? Chapter 1747. Humph. Qing Yan snorted coldly. Of course not. But hers is different. Because it was the only pair of unique Supreme Being blood eyes in the world. Then, is she the one you were talking about? Feng Yuan's voice was full of resentment and jealousy. He couldn't take other people's eyes, but Luo Qingtong's could. Didn't that mean that her blood-red eyes were superior to all other eyes? Wasn't she the destined one? Humph, destined one? Qing Yan hissed coldly. Compared to her, I'm nothing. At this point, he didn't want to say anything more. At this moment, a long and narrow passage appeared in front of him. It was the passageway to the outer realm that he had opened earlier. Okay, you can go in. As he spoke, his figure became extremely thin and transparent in an instant, and then disappeared into Feng Wuan's body in the next second. At the same time, the long and narrow passage shone brightly and swallowed Feng Wuan's body. In the sacred capital of Great Chu, Luo Qingtong stayed in the imperial palace of Great Chu for a few days. She gave some of the wood spirit to grandfather Luo and asked him to give it to some of the Luo family's outstanding disciples. Then, she went to the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin with Yi Qianxian. In the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin, little tyrant Yuan and the others returned to the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin with the Grand Dean and the others after the 4 academy tournament ended. Luo Qingtong wasn't there, and they didn't delay their cultivation. As far as they were concerned, they were truly too weak. They couldn't share Luo Qingtong's worries at all. They weren't qualified to stand beside Luo Qingtong. When the Breeze Pavilion's people played tricks and cancelled the results of the 4 academy tournament and the quota, everyone in the sacred academy of the Empire of Qin was furious. But they forgot about it and went back to their own training. The people of the Breeze Pavilion probably thought that going to the hidden world was everyone's goal. However, for little tyrant Yuan, Su Xiaoxiao, and the others, being able to stand by Luo Qingtong's side and become her shield and sword was their life's greatest pursuit. Everything else didn't matter to them. Boss. In Sky Hall's training ground, little tyrant Yuan and the others had just come out of the training ground when they saw Luo Qingtong, who was standing hand in hand with Yi Qianren and looking at them with a smile. Boss, you're back. He almost jumped 3 feet high and rushed over. Sima Zhu, Ling Tianhan and the others came out from behind him. Seeing him so excited that he couldn't control himself, they were stunned. Then, they all followed and surrounded him. Boss. Boss. The crowd surrounded Luo Qingtong, almost pushing Yi Qianxian to the side. Yi Qianxian's face was cold, thinking about how to send them flying. At this moment, little tyrant Yuan glanced at Yi Qianxian, who had a dark face and was emitting an extremely powerful and terrifying aura. His heart trembled fiercely. Then, he saw Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian holding hands and fell silent. Hey! He raised his hand and poked Sima Zhu, who was beside him, and asked in a low voice, how should I address boss's man? He hadn't come into contact with this before. Sister-in-law? No, big brother. That didn't seem right. Chapter 1748. It did seem like a problem to address him this way. I think, maybe, we should call him brother-in-law? Ling Yu said uncertainly. This title should be correct, right? Luo Qingtong was their boss, their big sister. It seemed all right for them to call her man brother-in-law. Brother-in-law my ass. Little tyrant Yuan wished he could beat her to death. You're openly taking advantage of our boss. Then, how about we call her sister-in-law? No, I think we should call him brother-in-law. The group of people were discussing excitedly at the side. But they didn't know that with Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianxian's strength, they could hear their whispers very clearly. In an instant, the veins on Yi Qianxian's forehead kept throbbing. His handsome face hidden behind the dark golden mask was so dark that ink was about to drip out. Luo Qingtong was laughing so hard that she almost choked. This group of jokers. Seeing that their discussion was getting more and more ridiculous, and that they were actually planning to come over and call them, Luo Qingtong hurriedly spoke up to stop them from courting death. Otherwise, if they really called them out, Yi Qianxian would explode, and she wouldn't be able to hold him back. Wait. She held back her laughter and said to them, I have something to give you. Come back to the dormitory with me. Yes. The group had always taken Luo Qingtong's words as a standard. Hearing this, they immediately followed her to the dormitory. As for calling Yi Qianxian, they had completely forgotten about it. Fortunately, they had forgotten, or else, in the dark, Bei Qing, Feng Yu, and the others looked at their master's dark face and instantly broke out in cold sweat for little tyrant Yuan and the others. After calling little tyrant Yuan and the others back to the dormitory, Luo Qingtong took out the wood spirit in her hand. Here, one for each of you. After taking it, how much you can improve depends on you. However, no matter how much your strength has improved in the end, it won't be a problem for you to cultivate to the sage realm in the future. The effect of the wood spirit was not as powerful as the Holy Land flower that Luo Qingtong had taken before. After taking it, Luo Qingtong immediately broke through to the Holy Land. Even so, Yuan Little Overlord and the others wouldn't have any problems breaking through to the Saint Realm in the future. And according to Luo Qingtong's estimation, with the temperament and tenacity of Little Overlord Yuan and the others, it was not impossible for them to directly break through to the Sage Realm this time. Boss? Little Overlord Yuan and the others were shocked when they saw the wood spirits that Luo Qingtong took out. Especially Sima Zhu and Ling Tianhan. Their strength and talent were the strongest among the group, and they were also the first to reach the martial spirit realm. They were desperately trying to break through to the Saint Realm, but they couldn't find a way to do so. At this time, Luo Qingtong took out the wood spirit that could help them break through to the Sage Realm. In the future, they would be one step closer to Luo Qingtong. Boss. Everyone was extremely excited. Yuan the Little Overlord immediately jumped to his feet. Oh. Boss. I want to repay you with my body. As soon as he said this, he suddenly felt an extremely cold murderous aura coming at him. Little tyrant Yuan quivered in an instant. He quickly changed his words and said, "To Little Pig." As soon as he said this, everyone looked at him as if he was a beast. Shameless. In order to please Boss, he wouldn't even let Little Pig go. Chapter 1749. Fortunately, Little Pig wasn't here. Otherwise, he would have been angered to his true form. Damn it, he didn't like this damn fatty either. Luo Qingtong looked at them with a smile. After Little Tyrant Yuan and the others took the wood spirit, they were about to tell Luo Qingtong that they would catch up with her as soon as possible when they suddenly realized that their boss had advanced again. And this time, she was in the Saint Realm? Everyone stared dumbfoundedly at the faintly discernible aura that surrounded Luo Qingtong. Because it was in front of them, Luo Qingtong didn't deliberately hide it. BBBB boss? Everyone stuttered, almost unable to believe their eyes. Boss, you're in the Saint Realm? Finally, Little Tyrant Yuan, the thick-skinned one, asked what was on their minds. Yes. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't want to hide it from them in the first place. Otherwise, with her concealment methods, they wouldn't be able to see her aura and strength at all. Little Tyrant Yuan and the others had to know that the Saint Realm was never the end of their strength as long as they followed her. They still needed to become stronger. Oh my god. Little Tyrant Yuan and the others, who were still incomparably excited, instantly looked as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water on them. They originally thought that after their strength rose to the Saint Realm, they would be able to catch up with Luo Qingtong. But unexpectedly, their boss's strength had already risen to the Saint Realm at this time. What right did they have to tease and play here? Everyone's expression became incomparably solemn at this time. I'm going to the training ground to cultivate in seclusion. Sima Zhu held the wood spirit in his hand, turned around without hesitation, and left without looking back. Behind him, Ling Tianhan, Ling Yu, Su Xiaoxiao, Little Tyrant Yuan, and the others all followed him and left. I'm going too. I'm going too. In an instant, the group of people left without a trace. It wasn't that they didn't want to stay and chat with Luo Qingtong a little longer. But without strength, what right did they have to stay by Luo Qingtong's side? If they could only become Luo Qingtong's burden in the future, they would rather die in the training ground. The group of people left thoroughly. Luo Qingtong looked at their departing backs and smiled. She believed that they could do it. Qianming, let's go find the Grand Dean. Luo Qingtong had promised the Grand Supreme Dean that she would treat his injuries when she was strong enough. But now, it was completely possible. Yes. Yi Qianming's face indifference ttsst, t-s writes t-t-t-t-s right. T's, t-t-t's, t-t-t's, t's yi, Timachin Yi was dressed in green, and the aura around him became more and more stable and restrained. He looked at the place where Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming disappeared, and his eyes narrowed slightly. There's no need. He had already seen them, so there was no need to go in. He wasn't qualified to appear by Luo Qingtong's side yet. When his strength was enough to help her, he would appear in front of her again. Ma Chenyi turned and left. Looking at his departing back, Yu Qingwei pursed her lips heavily. Mo Chenai, do you really not see me in your eyes at all? Chapter 1750. You always think that what happened between us was just a joke. But you know, I never thought that it was a joke. Yu Qingwei pursed her lips. She looked at the place where Luo Qingtong disappeared. Luo Qingtong, I will try my best to catch up with you. If he can only see you, then I will try my best to catch up with you. In this way, when he sees you, he can also see me, right? Even if it's just a little. Yu Qingwei left without looking back. At this moment, Luo Qingtong had already appeared in front of the Grand Supreme Dean with Yi Qianming. Grand Supreme Dean. She had a smile on her face, but the latter jumped up at this moment. Evil Dr. Kid? The Grand Supreme Dean looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise, then his eyes widened. You. What's wrong with you, kid? He looked at the faintly discernible aura around Luo Qingtong. Saint Realm? Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at the Grand Supreme Dean with a smile. I'm already in the Saint Realm. Grand Supreme Dean, let me treat your injury. Wait, the Grand Supreme Dean held his forehead. Then in the next second, he jumped up from his chair and pointed at Yi Qianxian, scolding, You, surnamed Yi, what's going on? How did her strength increase so much all of a sudden? Did you use some kind of spoiling method on her? The Grand Supreme Dean shouted and stomped his feet. He was so angry that he didn't even care about Yi Qianxian's identity as the Blackfield's underworld senior. Anyway, with Luo Qingtong around, he couldn't do anything to him. He stomped his feet and looked at Yi Qianxian with a pained expression. Do you know what an unstable foundation means to her in the future? Even if you think that her strength is lower than yours, you can't do this. You're simply trying to destroy her. The Grand Supreme Dean was furious. Luo Qingtong had always been a student and a good seedling that he thought highly of. Now that such a good seedling was about to be ruined by Yi Qianxian, how could he not be angry? Yes, Luo Qingtong's strength had been raised by Yi Qianxian. However, the method of spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm was not stable. Luo Qingtong could not go far in the future. With this thought in mind, the Grand Supreme Dean felt like punching Yi Qianxian to death. If not for the fact that he was no match for Yi Qianxian, he would have rushed forward and taught him a lesson. No one would do such a thing. He wanted to break Luo Qingtong's wings so that she could only stay by his side and rely on his protection like a canary. This was supposed to be a phoenix that soared above the 9 heavens. The more the Grand Supreme Dean thought about it, the angrier he became. In the end, he couldn't help but roll up his sleeves and rush forward. Luo Qingtong looked at his angry and speechless appearance and felt a burst of warmth in her heart. Seeing that he was about to rush over with his sleeves rolled up, she hurriedly stopped him. Wait. Grand Supreme Dean, you've misunderstood. Seeing that he was stomping his feet and asking her not to protect Yi Qianxian, Luo Qingtong felt a burst of amusement and gratitude. There's no problem with my strength. Grand Supreme Dean, you've misunderstood Qianren. Chapter 1751. In an instant, the expression on the Grand Supreme Dean's face froze. Ha! Ha! His face was filled with embarrassment. The aura that Luo Qingtong released was thick and solid, surging violently. It was not something that could be achieved by forcefully increasing it. Not to mention that she was able to retract and release this aura freely. It was obvious that her understanding of the realm was very solid. Oh my, where did this evil doctor kid get such an opportunity? Who would have thought that her strength would jump 3 or 2 times a day? It was no wonder that his thoughts were crooked. The corner of the Grand Supreme Dean's mouth twitched. He looked at Yi Qianming, who was standing beside Luo Qingtong with a dark and cold expression. He felt an indescribable guilt in his heart. Cough. He coughed lightly and was about to say something when Yi Qianming's cold voice rang out. This honorable one will never do anything that is disadvantageous to her, no matter what the outcome is. As he spoke, he looked at the Grand Supreme Dean with an icy gaze. There will be no next time for today's matter. He did not care if the other party misunderstood him, but he could not do anything related to Luo Qingtong. Cough cough cough. Yes, yes, yes. I understand. The Grand Supreme Dean coughed violently and hurriedly agreed. There was no other way. Who asked him to be in the wrong? Fortunately, there was no one else here. Otherwise, he would have lost a lot of face. The Grand Supreme Dean thought and immediately changed the topic. That's right, evil Dr. Brat, didn't you say that you were going to treat my injuries? Hurry up. I don't know how long I've been waiting. The Grand Supreme Dean had never thought that there would be a day when his injuries could be cured. He was overjoyed and almost hurriedly waved at Luo Qingtong. As for the previous awkwardness, he had completely thrown it to the back of his mind. Luo Qingtong looked at him and held back her laughter. She did not deliberately keep him in suspense. Instead, she directly walked in front of him and began to treat his injuries. Boom! Under Luo Qingtong's precise treatment, the terrifying energy occupying the Grand Dean's body was slowly removed by Luo Qingtong. Speaking of this, it must be mentioned that Luo Qingtong could see through her Do technique that the entrenched power in the Grand Supreme Dean's body was very strong, but she didn't know how strong it was. Now that she had come into contact with it and gotten rid of it, she realized that this power was far stronger than she had imagined. In the past, she had thought that the Saint Realm would be able to eradicate these forces. Now that she had come into contact with it, she realized that the power of the Sage Realm was not enough. She was only barely able to accomplish this with the strength of a saint. Moreover, this was because her strength was far stronger than ordinary Saint Realm experts. Otherwise, even with the assistance of his eye technique, he wouldn't be able to completely deal with these forces. The Grand Principal was probably not an ordinary person. Luo Qingtong looked thoughtful. Boom boom boom. Luo Qingtong slowly removed the power from the Grand Dean's body. His strength was also rapidly recovering and increasing. Surpassing the Saint Realm, the Saint Realm, the Sage Realm. By the time Luo Qingtong had removed all the power occupying his body, his strength had already increased to the level of a Saint General. He was only a little bit away from breaking through to the Saint General realm. This was because the power occupying the Grand Supreme Dean's body had just been removed and had not fully recovered. Otherwise, his strength would have increased by another 1 or 2 levels. Chapter 1752. As for the Grand Dean, after feeling the surging power in his body that he hadn't felt for a long time, he laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. I finally got rid of those damn things. Ha ha ha. As he spoke, his body suddenly burst with crackling sounds. Then, a much younger Grand Dean appeared in front of Luo Qingtong. His face was like jade and his eyes were like cold stars. He was very handsome and didn't look more than 30 years old. Ha ha ha. The Grand Dean laughed heartily. As his strength recovered, his face also returned to how it was before his strength was damaged. It was really great. Thank you. Evil Dr. Baby. If you have any problems in the future, just tell me. As long as I, Zhu Yi, can do it, I will never say no. The Grand Supreme Dean's face was filled with excitement. He didn't know how many ways to get rid of the power in his body, but it didn't have any effect. If he hadn't met Luo Qingtong, he didn't know how long he would be suppressed. This evil Dr. Baby was really his lucky star and savior. The Grand Dean was extremely happy. Luo Qingtong looked at him and smiled. Grand Dean, with your strength, you should be from the hidden world, right? Cough. Yes. When she mentioned the hidden world, the Grand Dean felt very unnatural. But he also knew that this matter couldn't be hidden, so he didn't deny it. Oh, then will the Grand Dean still go to the hidden world? Let's go together. Luo Qingtong looked at him and asked. Cough. Not going, not going. I'm not interested in that place. The holy court of the Empire of Qin still needs me. I'll just stay here. Not knowing what he thought, the Grand Dean waved his hand for a while, as if he was afraid to avoid it. Luo Qingtong looked at him and raised her eyebrows. Just as she was about to speak, Yi Qianming's cold voice sounded from the side. It's hard to repay a love debt, of course he doesn't dare to go. Yi Qianming's words had just reached this point when the Grand Dean jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. You, how did you know? He stared at Yi Qianming with bulging eyes. Yi Qianming snorted and ignored him. At this moment, swoosh. A golden arrow quickly flew over and appeared in front of Yi Qianming. Swoosh. He raised his hand and caught it. As his thoughts ran through it, his expression instantly froze. Qingtong, let's go back to the black field. All right. Seeing his expression, of course, Luo Qingtong didn't say anything more. Yi Qianming raised his hand and pulled her over. The two of them disappeared in an instant. Hey! Mings! The Grand Supreme Dean was hopping mad as he watched them leave. You of T-test. Are you F***************** T? The Grand Dean of the Grand Ming. Of ye of Estes T of Holy Court of Qin T, returned to the main city. S Bei Qing and Feng Yu, who had been waiting on the flying boat for a long time, responded in unison. In the blink of an eye, the Atlas flying ship shot out like a sharp arrow. Swoosh! As the flying boat flew out, Luo Qingtong looked at the man beside her and asked, Qianming, what happened? Why are you in such a hurry? Chapter 1753. Chu Lingfeng is missing. In the far west wilderness, after Yi Qianming received Chu Lingfeng's message, he sent him to the Blackfield's main city to recuperate. The latter's injuries were too serious. His blood and strength had almost been sucked dry. If it weren't for Chu Lingfeng's physique being different from ordinary people, he would have died long ago. But even so, his situation wasn't optimistic. Yi Qianming sent him to the Blackfield's main city to ask Elder Yu to treat Chu Lingfeng. Otherwise, Luo Qingtong wouldn't feel good. However, just now, Elder Yu suddenly sent him a message saying that Chu Lingfeng was missing. Shua. In the Blackfield's main city, Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming's figures flew out of the Atlas flying ship. Yi Qianming held Luo Qingtong in his arms and appeared in the medicine hall in a flash. Hey, little Yi, you're back. And you, the little evil doctor girl, are also here? In the medicine hall, Elder Yu frowned. No one knew what he was thinking. When he heard the noise, he immediately raised his head. Yes. Luo Qingtong didn't bother with small talk. She went straight to him and asked, Elder Yu, what happened to Chu Lingfeng? How did he disappear? There were many masters in the Blackfield's main city. Chu Lingfeng was injured, so it was impossible for him to leave by himself. But if someone came to snatch him, who could snatch him from the many masters in the Blackfield's main city? Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming had just returned. They clearly didn't find any traces of battle in the Blackfield's main city. Oh, you mean that big fool? His situation is really strange. Hearing Luo Qingtong ask about Chu Lingfeng, Elder Yu's brows instantly twisted. I saw him disappear in front of me with my own eyes. Girl, I'm afraid your subordinate isn't from the true Spill continent, right? At least not all of them. He said and looked at Luo Qingtong. The girl's brows slightly twisted. His life experience is somewhat unusual, that's right. Elder, you said, I studied it carefully for a long time. If I'm not wrong, he should have been summoned by his blood relatives using a special method. Elder, you said, his blood is very special. At that time, all the blood in his body boiled, and then he was wrapped in a golden light and disappeared. Hearing his words, Luo Qingtong frowned. A blood relative related to Chu Lingfeng? Yen Nyang's side was definitely impossible. Then, was it Chu Lingfeng's father, whom he had never met before? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong's frown deepened. Elder Yu, SSSSSS? Okay. Elder Yu said and led Luo Qingtong and Yi Qianming to the place where Chu Lingfeng was recuperating. That big blockhead disappeared here, he said and pointed to the couch in the room. Okay. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed. The bloody light in her eyes flickered. Soon, the whole scene in the room was replayed in her eyes. Buzz. Luo Qingtong's eyes clearly showed the scene of Chu Lingfeng's disappearance. The blood in his body started to boil and wrapped around him tightly. Then, his figure disappeared in the middle. As for Chu Lingfeng's boiling blood, it was golden in color. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed fiercely. Soon, she realized that a ray of light was being pulled out of the blood and disappeared into the void. Chapter 1754. With a pop, the blood-red light in her eyes suddenly extinguished, and her body involuntarily staggered forward. Qingtong. Yi Qianxian's eyes narrowed, and he raised his hand to pull her into his embrace. I'm fine. Luo Qingtong shook her head and looked towards the direction where the light had disappeared. The power contained within was too strong. Her current strength was not enough to support her eye technique to trace the direction in which the other party had left. However, according to what she had just seen, Chu Lingfeng's disappearance was most likely related to his father, whom she had never met. Moreover, it was likely related to his own physique. Perhaps Chu Lingfeng's severe injuries had stimulated some changes in his physique, attracting his father's attention. This caused the other party to sense his existence and use the bloodline connection to summon him. The other party's strength was not ordinary, and it was obvious that they were from the outer realms. Luo Qingtong frowned. Qianren, I need to make a trip to Wild City. She had to tell Yen Yang about this. All right. Yi Qianxian looked at her and nodded. He could see that Luo Qingtong had used the same method she had used to track down the whereabouts of grandfather Luo to investigate Chu Lingfeng's whereabouts, but she had not been able to find anything. Obviously, the other party was not from the true Spill continent, and their strength was very strong, far beyond the scope of Luo Qingtong's ability. As for Chu Lingfeng's matter, I will have Beiqing inform the people outside to pay more attention. You don't have to worry too much. His voice was low. Since Chu Lingfeng is of the other party's bloodline, and he has also inherited that person's physique, the other party should not do anything to him. This may not be a bad thing for him. Luo Qingtong looked at him and nodded, then her figure flashed and disappeared into the air. Then, a spirit ship flew out of the Black Field's main city. Master, what did you say? Far West Wilderness, Savage City. Hu Yinyang stood in the lobby of Family Hu's main courtyard and looked at Luo Qingtong, whose face was pale. Feng Er, he, was taken away by that man? Hu Yinyang looked pained. She had never thought that Chu Lingfeng would be taken away by that man. Didn't the other party not know about her and Lingfeng's existence? Back then, when he returned, didn't he already know from Bai Feng and the others that he was already dead? Why did he take Lingfeng away? He used his bloodline connection with Chu Lingfeng to take him away. If I'm not wrong, it should be related to the constitution Chu Lingfeng inherited from him. Luo Qingtong looked at her and whispered. I understand. Hu Yinyang's body was on the verge of collapsing, but she managed to stabilize herself in the end. After training by Luo Qingtong's side for so long, and being in charge of such a large force, she had interacted with all kinds of people. She was no longer the naive girl who was at a loss when something happened. Master, she looked at Luo Qingtong, then suddenly bit her lip and asked, I want to cultivate. Do I still have a chance? Hu Yennyang knew her own body well. Her strength had been greatly reduced back then, and her body was almost hollowed out. It was a miracle that she did not die back then. It was almost impossible for her to cultivate now. Chapter 1755. But this time, she couldn't help it. Chu Lingfeng was her only hope and wish in this life. Because of this son, because of his company, Hu Yennyang was able to live a life worse than death for so many years. She couldn't lose Chu Lingfeng. That man was so powerful, he might not lack children by his side at all. But Chu Lingfeng was the only one for her. Hu Yennyang wanted to cultivate. She wanted to openly snatch her son back from that man's side. Mistress, can I do it? She looked at Luo Qingtong with a pleading expression. Yennyang. Luo Qingtong frowned slightly as she looked at Hu Yennyang. The latter's physical condition wasn't difficult for her. She could easily help her make up for the losses she had suffered in the past. But the difficult part was that Hu Yennyang's soul had left her body before. Her soul had suffered great damage, and there was always a gap between it and her body. Luo Qingtong could make up for Hu Yennyang's soul, but she couldn't remove this gap. As long as this gap existed, Hu Yennyang's future cultivation achievements would be limited. She couldn't increase her strength to a very high level. Not to mention other things, she couldn't even cross the unity of heaven and man in the martial emperor realm. This was the most troublesome part. Luo Qingtong looked at Hu Yennyang and frowned. She was thinking of how to explain this to her without making her too sad. At this moment, Little Pig's voice resounded in her mind. Hey! Wait! Who said she can't cultivate? She can. The moment it said that, Luo Qingtong's words paused and she swallowed them back. She asked Little Pig in her mind, how can it be? Her soul left her body for too long. It's in a half-spirit, half-ghost state. It's been contaminated with too much death aura. It's completely entangled with her soul and permeated it. Even if it returns to the body now, it won't be compatible with the body. If she could cultivate, I would have helped her. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. As her subordinate, Yennyang was in charge of her forces. If it wasn't for the fact that Yennyang's body wasn't suitable for cultivation, how could she not help her raise her strength? There was simply no way to resolve this situation. Of course you couldn't in the past. But now you have the ancient heavenly spiritual wood. Little Pig said in her mind. That thing is an ancient divine wood. It's extremely good at nourishing the soul. It's not something that an ordinary divine wood can compare to. Those leaves. Rumor has it that one leaf equals one soul. Do you know what that means? That is to say, a single leaf from it can help one activate the soul seal and nurture the soul. Don't you have a seedling of that thing in your hands? It's the sapling that sprouted from the heart of the 1,000-year-old soul-guiding tree. You haven't forgotten, have you? Little Pig said. Pluck a leaf from it and give it to her. Immediately, her soul will be incomparably compatible with her body. At the same time, her soul will be completely sublimated and baptized. The previous drawbacks of soul detachment will completely disappear. Not only that, but it's also possible to activate a soul seal. Do you think the ancient heavenly spiritual wood is fake? Little Pig rolled his eyes in the 9-layered exquisite pagoda. He was very surprised when the 1,000-year-old soul-guiding tree in Luo Qingtong's hand turned into an ancient heavenly spiritual wood. If it wasn't a good thing, why would he be so surprised? The benefits of the ancient heavenly spiritual wood were too many. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.